Okay, so I don't need to start again. We're good. Thank you. Could we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Isto? Councilmember Isto? You hear?
Here. Yeah, I couldn't hear before.
Okay. Councilmember Ennie?
Here.
Councilmember Badami?
Here.
Vice Mayor Moore?
Here.
Mayor Hudis?
Here. Welcome this evening, and we will go right to our Pledge of Allegiance, and then we will get to consent items. How many people are here concerning item 22, which is 101, I'm sorry, 101 Blossom Hill Road? Okay, so I see quite a few people. So that is a consent item. I will be pulling that item from consent, and we will address that as a regular item as soon as we get through some of the other preliminary items. So that'll come first before our regular order. Okay, thank you. So Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to invite Johann Jacob to come up here. So Johann is that okay? Is that working? Thank you. Johann is an incoming senior at Los Gatos High School, and he is an Eagle Scout, as you can see, and he has an interest in music, plays the piano, and in quite a few other things that are of service to the community. And so he's volunteered to lead our Pledge of Allegiance tonight. And so I will turn over the microphone to Johann.
Thank you very much. It's really an honor to be able to do this. Would the audience please rise as able and place your right hand over your heart or salute if you're in uniform. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. You may be seated.
Thank you. And if you wouldn't mind just shaking hands with our council members, you can start over there. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great. And how about some applause for Johann? So now we normally do consent items as a whole, and there's an opportunity to pull consent items that may be of interest. And we do the consent items first, and then we do our normal verbal communications, which are about any item that's not on the agenda. And I do have a number of cards about that, but I have so many about item 22 that I will be pulling item 22, and we will address that, as I said, as our first order of business after our verbal communications. So are there any other items that a council member would like to pull from consent or comments about consent? Councilmember Badami?
I'm going to comment on item number 17. I won't be supporting it. The Finance Commission unanimously voted to stop progression of the bridge project, and that was due to the overall cost of the project. Our finance commissioners are financial experts. Council members pick them individually to provide financial advice. And as council member, I support their unanimous recommendation and thereby cannot consent to item number 17.
So would you like to pull it and have further discussion about it? Or do you want to just, how would you like to handle that?
It's just a comment. I believe this was already discussed by council members, and that's why it's on the consent. So I don't believe it needs to be pulled.
Okay, I have a question for staff. If you might, on item 17, could you address whether this is committing the town to anything financially at this point, and what the arrangements are that are being asked for in number 17?
Sure. Thank you for the question. Nicole Burnham, Director of Parks and Public Works. This grant is a grant that was given to us by the Valley Transportation Authority, and they awarded the entire allocation of Transportation Development Act funding to us for this grant cycle, because this is the highest ranked priority project for bicycle and pedestrian facilities in the county. So there is no match commitment for this grant, and we will have the grant money. If it doesn't get used, which we hope isn't the case, it would get returned back to the VTA in future action.
So to clarify, this action is to accept a grant, but not to commit town funds at this time.
That is correct.
Councilmember Badami?
Just a quick question, Ms. Burnham. I hope you have the information handy. I won't hold you to it if you don't. What is the overall cost of this capital project?
The overall cost, inclusive of design, is $29 million.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember, you are not looking for an individual debate and discussion on this. You just would like your comment on the record. Is that correct?
That is correct. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So item 22 has been pulled. Would anyone let me see if I can take any public comments on the rest of the consent items that exclude item 22, which is the 101 Blossom Hill Road development. I have a number of cards for verbal, but I don't have any on consent. So with that, I will close the public comment on consent. No one on Zoom about consent?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. So council members, any comments or motion on the consent calendar? Councilmember Badami?
I'm not going to comment further, don't worry. I move to approve the consent calendar 1 through 21 with Councilmember Badami opposed on item number 17.
Vice Mayor?
Second.
Okay, further discussion? No, let's have a roll call on this, please.
Councilmember Bristow?
Aye.
Councilmember Rennie?
Aye.
Councilmember Badami?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Moore?
Aye.
Mayor Hudas?
Aye. Okay, so we are through the consent calendar, and now we will move to verbal communications. I have a number of cards, and I'd like to start with Maureen Heath, Kylie, and Sue Ann Lorig. And if it turns out that your comments are about item 22, please hold them till then.
Good evening, Mayor and town council members. My name is Maureen Heath, and I'm a longtime resident of Los Gatos, and I'm here today to ask the town to raise the Pride flag in 2026. As you know, June is Pride Month. I had an opportunity this week to listen to a webinar by the California Department of Aging. It was about a survey that was done of 4,000 LGBTQ older adults. The introductory remarks was from Senator John Laird. The overriding theme that discussed the results was that many LGBTQ older adults feel a sense of social isolation and loneliness. This is Pride Month, and cities all around us are raising the Pride flag. Santa Cruz City just celebrated their 50th anniversary of Pride. Delray Oaks raised the Pride flag. Walnut Creek, Santa Clara, the County of Santa Clara, the City of San Jose. So I'm here to suggest that the town of Los Gatos consider raising the Pride flag next year as a sign of human rights and equality. It's a sign that'll give hope and inspiration for all of your LGBTQ adults. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd ask the members here not to applaud. We do not encourage that type of support or protest against speakers who have come forth freely to speak in our council hearings. So I'll ask, please refrain on any demonstration. Thank you. Kylie.
Hello, my name is Kylie, and I'm a resident of Los Gatos. You know, normally I would say during my comment that I am a proud resident of Los Gatos, but this June, this LGBTQ plus Pride Month, I am not feeling particularly proud to be living here because we are one of only 4 cities in all of Santa Clara County that still in 2025 does not raise the Pride flag. And this flag is more than just a gesture or a meaningless symbol. It carries with it a message, and that message is that you are safe here. We care about you. You belong here, and we see you. You know, I have friends who are in same-sex relationships, and some of them on purpose don't even come to Los Gatos at all. And those who do often avoid holding hands, try to not show that they're in a relationship, try to maybe even dress differently because they don't feel safe in Los Gatos. And if you think about it, of course they don't. I mean, you see every week during comments just like this one, the actual hate and bigotry and homophobia that are spewed during these comments. And so if we have that and we're not saying anything to the contrary, how can we expect our community members to feel safe here? And so my ask of you is that this June or next, we join 11 other cities in Santa Clara County in raising the Pride flag in Los Gatos. And this is, like I said, a way to tell people that they are safe here. And if we can't even say that or tell people that, then how can we make it true? Thank you.
Thank you. Sue-Ann Lorig, and then Melissa Tarrin.
Hi. Can I pull it down? Oh, okay. Hello, Mayor Hudas, Vice Mayor Moore, and Council. I'm Sue-Ann Lorig, and I've lived here 12 years in this beautiful community of Los Gatos. You may remember me as the organizer of the Sidewalk Chalk Rainbows for the Los Gatos Stands United Against Hate March and Rally in November 2021. I'm here today on another diversity, equity, and inclusiveness issue, and that is to encourage the town of Los Gatos to fly the Pride flag this month and in future Pride months. Although I do stand against hate, I prefer to say what I stand for, and that is that I stand on the side of love. We're all interconnected. What affects one affects the others. It's a ripple effect. What we say and do, whether to tear down or to build up, spreads. We can recognize that we all have inherent worth and dignity. Each person has value, regardless of their gender identity, body part, sexuality, place of origin, or skin color. There's so much division in our country now. It's been growing for years, and now it seems to be exploding. It breaks my heart. The way to turn that around, and the only way, is to side with love. We can treat each other with kindness and with respect. We are a community, and everyone is important and necessary. We can show those that are marginalized that we support and value them. A pride flag is much more than just a symbol of LGBTQ plus pride. By flying it, it shows that we support LGBTQ plus people. We are here for them. They are safe here. I urge you to join cities in Santa Clara County and across the Bay Area in flying the pride flag. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Torin, and then Terry Hernandez.
Hi. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, town manager, and assistant town manager and staff. When I ask people, have you ever heard of or do you know KCAT TV? 98% of the time, the people say, oh, you're the ones that do the government meetings. And I love that. I think that's such an honor. And the credit goes to you because of your unwavering commitment to bring government transparency to our residents. Offering people 5 ways to watch a town meeting fosters civic engagement, which fills those commission and committee seats, which we all want. If I may boast for a second, the people who run the meetings are college students and retirees trained by KCAT, and I'm so proud to be able to offer them employment and real life skills that they take with them everywhere. So I'm very proud of that. So I just came here tonight to thank you for continuing our partnership and look forward to many more years of broadcasting and live streaming your meetings. On another note, our summer camps are rocking and rolling, and we will be educating 400 kiddos this summer. That's so cool. Part of our curriculum is a Tuesday field trip into town where we interview a business, a restaurant, people on the street, and we started this new little program called Tell Me Something Good. So I'm inviting all of you council members, if you're ever in town at like 10:30 to 11 on Tuesday morning, we would love to interview you and you can tell us something good, anything good. Okay, so thank you. Thank you for all you do. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for the work of KCAT. Terry Hernandez, and then Annie Schwartzstein.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. My name is Terry Hernandez, and I am the president of Pride Social. We are a nonprofit in Santa Clara County. We provide peer support and advocacy for our LGBT. I'm also an MSW social worker as well, having worked in hospice, pediatric, and adults. I am also Woman of the Year. Thank you to our State Assemblywoman, Gail Pillarine. The reason I was not Woman of the Year is for bringing on organizing the LGBT community in South County, which I probably don't have to tell you is one of the most conservative parts of our county. We do have higher rates of harassment against our LGBT, including our youth. And even to raise the flag in Gilroy, we helped organize Gilroy to have 150 signatures that are required by the city, $552, and the city council has to vote the majority in order to raise that flag. And that's every time it's requested to be raised. So, and that is an ordeal. We are seeing cities across the state and the nation grappling with whether they should raise the pride flag or not. And I ask you to please respect our LGBT. I'm here to support my LGBT siblings in Los Gatos. And one of the things by raising the flag is you are actually sending a message that you are a city of inclusion. And believe it or not, it does help decrease violence against the LGBT community. When that's not seen, we do see higher rates of harassment. So I hope that you really take into account your LGBT citizens that are contributing members of this beautiful city. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Ann Schwartzstein, and then Joanne Rogers. And if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, please correct me right away.
Okay, you got it. So thank you. Hi, I'm Annie, and I am a resident of Los Gatos, and I'm speaking in support of raising the pride flag in Los Gatos. The pride flag is one of the most well-known and used LGBTQ plus flags throughout history. The flag is used all over the world to represent LGBTQ communities, and it's a symbol of hope, unity, and empowerment to allow love to be love regardless of gender, ethnicity, or labels. The pride flag promotes gender inclusion and recognizes the many communities that celebrate pride. According to the Human Rights Campaign survey of over 800 workers across the country, LGBTQ plus employees still experience multiple instances of discrimination while at the workplace. Most LGBTQ plus employees, 53%, are closeted on the job. 1 in 4 LGBTQ plus employees report hearing negative comments, such as "that's so gay" while at work. 1 in 5 LGBTQ plus employees reported looking for a job, specifically because their environment wasn't accepting of their identities. And 1 in 10 LGBTQ plus workers left a job because they weren't comfortable there. Dina Freitas, the director of the HRC's Workplace Equality Program, said that while LGBTQ plus inclusive corporate policies are becoming more the norm, workers still face uncertain legal protections, leaving many to hide who they are for fear of discrimination in both their workplace and in their communities. Employees are getting married without telling their coworkers. They're not transitioning even though they need to for fear of losing their jobs. The inclusive policies coming from their boardroom have not fully made it into their everyday culture of the American workplace. Here in Los Gatos, it's imperative that we show our support for our residents while also setting a precedent for the employees that work in this town. This information also corresponds with a report coming from Open for Business, which shows that cities are more inclusive of LGBTQ plus workers and neighbors are better placed for economic recovery. There's a positive correlation between how resilient a community is and how accepting it is of LGBTQ plus people. 1 point increased in social and legal acceptance towards queer people corresponds to a $2,800 increase in GDP per capita. In conclusion, I think the rising of the flag is an important symbolic practice to take part in during Pride Month, but even more than that, it has far-reaching implications for our town, our residents, and the employees who work here each and every day.
Thank you. Joanne Rogers, and then Gus Hu.
Mayor Hudis, I was going to speak on the 101 project, not this.
Okay, so
I have the wrong, you have the wrong
we'll
card.
call you back up then.
Thank you. I'm
okay,
sorry.
Thanks. Okay, Gus Hu, and then Rick Parfit.
Hi guys. I don't know if that was the first card or the second one. One was I am Gus, and the other one was Gus Hu. I was on the first. I was trying to item. I said 1 and 5 on item 1 and 5, and that was for the consent items. And I wanted you guys to pull that because the entire town should have been proposed. That's this the building across the street. The entire town should have been properly notified on May 27th, 2025 council meeting, the special council meeting. I believe that the minutes accurately for the report speaks for itself, that they aren't true minutes. I asked to be notified on the 20th about such, when you moved it, because it was scheduled on the 20th, and it got moved to the 27th, and I was never notified. I submitted a video of the traffic that day. The pictures here don't show traffic, or I think it's misconceiving. I think that the people that's on the minutes, there's like 19 people spoke, 16 were against, 1 was neutral, and 2 people were for it, but they were the same name, and I think they had some stakes in the game. They had something in the game. Let's see. And then also the recondition. I mean, the two people that voted against it tried to get you guys to vote for, to bring it back up. I think that as a builder, I filed class action lawsuits, and I am filing one. I was a builder. You need a bond, and I had to put bonds up. No, as a builder, I would never take that kind of thing, because you need like a $60 million bond, because the principal even said 2 kids got hurt. Let's see, same issues, censorship, the voting fraud lawsuit in New York just came out. The Project 2025 playbook is in things. Civil war is, people are getting shot with rubber bullets. I think that's part of what I tried to, warn you about. And I know my time's running out, so there's a I want permission for forgiveness of ears that I'm planting.
Thank you. And Gus, I also have this IM card. We've covered both of those?
Well, I was trying to get that. That was the 3 minutes. I was trying to get 3 actual minutes on just not having the safety issue. And
right.
You're asking for a lot of lawsuits.
Right. So that is covered under verbal communications.
Well, I was trying to get that for the consent items.
But there wasn't a consent item about that, so.
1 and 5. The minutes on the minutes.
The minutes, yeah, right. Okay, I got it. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, Rick Parfit, and then Richard Kananen.
I'm Rick Parfit, and first I want to thank your council members for serving the public. That's a big contribution to the whole community. I'm here today because I'm president of a nonprofit 501(c) Friends of Bear Creek Stables. We've been in existence for about 14 years, and we've had a close working relationship with the Los Gatos Saratoga Recreation Education Department to have programs out at Bear Creek Stables. And as many of you know, Mid-Peninsula Open Space Regional District has purchased that preserve, and we are about to sign, the stables is closed right now, but we're about to reopen them for the public under a 12-year partnership with the Open Space District. As part of that agreement, they're going to be investing, they've budgeted up to $8 million to do restoration of the stables. We will be bringing $500,000, $250,000 when we sign the contract, and another $250,000, and then helping going forward through our nonprofit efforts to create programs that the camps like we've had before, open classroom, nature guided tours, and it is more extensive than what we've had in the past. And I just wanted to alert you to it. And I have, we were in the magazine, the Mountain Network News. I left a copy of this for each of you so you can read about how this program's going to date. And let's see, the other thing that's of interest is you have been a partner with us in the past. We are looking forward to reestablishing that partnership. You're within 5 minutes of driving time of that program. Any of you that have been up there lately, you've noticed the last few years, trails have been open. The parking lot's filled every weekend. It's 5 minutes from Los Gatos. It's a natural partnership, but we will also be partnership with the whole valley. And it's a historic preserve. There's lots of things to see. And it's more than anything, we think it's something that the whole community needs to commune with nature. And it's a place where everyone's going to be served and everyone will be welcome. So, to the people that spoke earlier, more than ever, we think it's an important place to include everybody. And thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you. Richard Kananen, and then Lindley.
I'm here to talk about the safety of our high school children. When the project located next to the high school was presented to the town council, there was compelling evidence testimony from the school principal and superintendent regarding the impact on the safety of our children. Council members Risto, Moore, and Rennie voted to approve the project even though they could have easily delayed, not rejected, but delayed. It's legal for you to delay delay the final vote until the next meeting to allow a student safety impact study to be completed by the school. It's my understanding that the developer of that project has already flipped it and sold it off to another investor to make a quick buck on it. So they had no vested interest in creating a project which benefits the town of Los Gatos or its residents or the parents or the students who will be negatively impacted by years of construction and then competition for the scarce parking spaces on the street after the project is completed. Thanks to the laws created by the legislature in Sacramento and the votes of Risto, Moore, and Rennie. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this project.
Thank you. Lindley, and then Joseph Enns.
I want to just introduce myself. My name is Lindley Kerr-Hogan, and my daughter Olivia was killed by the LGBTQ community. So, good evening, Mayor and Town Council. This evening I want to pray over our town and its people. Please, everyone, bow your heads. Heavenly Father, the ruler of the world, King of kings, we come before you tonight with heavy hearts, lifting up the LA riots and the No Kings protests that shook our nation this last week. We mourn the loss of life, the violence, and the hatred that have spread. Lord, we seek your guidance for Los Gatos, a community you love. Father, we call on your faithful here to rise up, to stand firm against the demonic practices we see in Los Gatos, practices that stray from your word. As Ephesians 6:11 teaches, we put on the full armor of God, the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit. We stand strong in you, Lord, and kneel only to Jesus Christ, our Savior. Who else is more righteous than you? Who else loves us more than you? We reject the temptations around us, pornography, the LGBTQ agenda, homosexuality, and the pride flag that pull us from your path. If we are to do better, we must place our trust and faith in Jesus Christ, the Anointed One, the way, the truth, and the life. Only through him can we overcome the daily trials in Los Gatos. Lord, strengthen your people to shut down these influences. Give us courage to proclaim your love, which alone can wipe out hate. If we all followed Jesus, hatred would fade, replaced by the love you command in 1 John 4:7. Protect our children, our families, and our town from deception. We pray for unity in your name, that Christians here will lead with your light. Guide our leaders and residents to seek your will, not the world's. Deliver us from evil, as Matthew 6:13 asks, and let Los Gatos be a beacon of your righteousness. We trust in your power to lead us out of darkness. In Jesus' holy name, we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Joseph Enns. And then Jeff Suzuki, is this about verbal communications? Okay.
Friends,
go ahead.
Representing Friends of Los Gatos Creek. I'm a community organizer. Something I brought up last meeting was the tunnel that's behind St. Luke's that carries the water. I offered to contact somebody, and I was remiss in that. I think it's probably something the city manager should handle or something. I don't know who's responsible for what. The fence has been torn down there, and it's a crime situation down there. It has been for the longest time, and now it's the 26-year-old, the kid that was carrying the gun around or whatever that made the press. He's kind of like told me not to bring it up and kind of strong-arming me. I said, I'm not going to have any kids or anybody tell me what I can bring up at the council meeting. So I'm going to go full head on this thing, and I'll be putting pressure in the proper places. nobody wants to really, take responsibility for the fence that's been torn down behind St. Luke's, but it allows for free traveling of all these people, and the meth problem is getting big down there, and people could do whatever they want. Oh, the guy's brother who was carrying the gun a few days ago, he lit a fire down there and burned the whole tunnel up. So somebody's got to be responsible for this. So I'll be spearheading it, and that's what's going on. So thanks for your concern.
Thank you. I have more cards than we have time for our 30 minutes of verbal communications, but since there aren't very many more, I'm going to take all of them, but I would ask people to be brief if they can, so that we can move to the agenda. Otherwise, we'll have to move these till after our full agenda. Jeff Suzuki and then Lee Quintana.
Hi, everyone. I am not speaking in my capacity as a Complete Streets and Transportation Commissioner, but as a private citizen and the president of the Los Gatos Anti-Racism Coalition. One of the ongoing projects of the coalition has been to dig up archival historical materials, either through primary and secondary sources, and I was recommended to read a book called A Splendid Disarray of Beauty, which details the lives of two men in Los Gatos, Frank Ingerson and George Dennison. In the early 1900s to the mid-1900s, they operated a school called Cathedral Oaks, and they are actually one of the first known, publicly known gay couples in the United States by common law. Very few people are aware of this. What's interesting but a bit disturbing is that many of the interviews about these people describe them as being wonderful, kind, incredible individuals, remarkably relatable, but otherwise their true relationship was never really described by the interviewees. As one of the interviewees said, trying to skirt the question, so what do you think their relationship was? It was, they're family, I guess, with, between each other, between the two of them. Their relationship was often described as brotherly. In the newspaper, was described as the boys. And as much as I'd like to say that we've turned a new leaf in today's society and that people can freely express their sexuality, every one of you sitting in your council seats today remembers how our former mayor was incessantly harassed for daring to install a rainbow crosswalk right between here and the high school. It got so bad that the state legislature had to change the law to prevent a situation like that from ever happening again. And in recognition for the needs of the safety of our community, I strongly implore you to hoist the pride flag for this year and for every Pride Month here on out, for the members of our LGBTQ+ community, for those who have family members, friends, and loved ones in that community. I ask that you do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee Quintana and then Karen Yamamoto. And then Joanne Rogers, I have a card to speak about housing, which is separate from item 22. Is that correct? Yeah. So you want both? Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead, Lee.
Good evening. I'm here to ask you to raise the pride flag. The general plan of Los Gatos in its vision statement states that Los Gatos is a welcoming town. This would be an example of implementing and achieving that mission. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Yamamoto and then Joanne Rogers. And that's the last card I have on verbal, and then we'll see if there's people on Zoom. Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Karen Yamamoto. I've lived here for 25 years. I support the gay and lesbian community. I have several members of the family who are gay and lesbian, and I would love the flag to be raised. Secondly, This is totally separate idea. After all of the negative feedback on the Cafe Dio build, you guys still voted for it. I'm absolutely, positively confused, upset. It's going to cause more damage to our high school than anything, and I just don't understand your logic behind it. And I want to know if you guys actually knew that it was, after you guys passed it, was going to be sold or is for sale. I would love some clarification on it, and I know several of the other community members here want to know why. I was expecting to come to another meeting on it because we need parking. We need a parking lot for those kids, for our events that happen right outside of here on the grass, for our Wednesday, for our Sunday music in the parks. It would have made tons of money, not only for the property owner, but for the town. I really would love an answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Joanne Rogers, and then we'll go to the Zoom participants.
2 weeks ago, your council meeting met with, and 3 out of the 5 of you approved of the construction of a 4-story condo with 30 units at the corner of Main and Los Gatos High School Court. So, since that approval, the owner has put that building on the market for sale to the highest bidder. This is how he describes the property for sale. Nestled in the prestigious corner of East Los Gatos, East Main Street and High School Court in an ultra-luxurious town of Los Gatos, which is one of the Bay Area's most coveted enclaves, is a breathtaking 4-story mixed-use masterpiece offering unrivaled views and opulence and the sanctuaries of private outdoor patios and room for a 47 stacked car garage for convenience. This is the description of the property that should not be near a school or a church. 60 or more of the letters with strong language were delivered to you and the Planning Commission. And they were begging that this project not be approved for this location. This building does not belong here, next door to the high school, or above all, for above all the safety of the kids. In this letter, there were lists of reasons why you would not want to build in this location: egress, ingress, fire evacuation, emergency vehicles, electric bikes, parking, traffic, pedestrians, noise from school activities, the size and construction of something this big at this site, and the unique Los Gatos problem of bumper-to-bumper traffic to Santa Cruz, not to mention the daycare and daily senior drop-in program at the church. The feeder roads that pour into East Main Street as the only way out in the case of fire, and just going to the grocery store for that matter. It takes about 45 minutes to get to Los Gatos. It can from to the Boulevard or North Santa Cruz from East Main. Where is the true environmental impact study here? I saw one that said 17 additional cars would be coming and going from a building with 30 units. That doesn't make sense. It's astonishing to me that you would receive 60 letters and public comments speaking here against this, and still 3 of you would vote to approve this. Why? It seems to me that you are not looking out for the current residents of Los Gatos. You're not listening to us. You are fighting for you were not fighting for us and our best interests. Why not? We citizens were allowed 3 more chances to express our concern about this proposed project. You didn't allow for the full citizen impact of 5 hearings. Why? To me, this is grounds for us as Los Gatos citizens to sue the town council and to start with a recall, because this is the only way. This is only the beginning of a long, long list of inappropriate, in-your-face monstrosities. We current residents, taxpayers, will be fighting to maintain the character of our town. You're either with us or against us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now move to Zoom comments. So first speaker,
Ali Miana.
go ahead.
Thank you for taking my comment. I too would like to echo those who have advocated for raising the pride flag at the Civic Center in the town. So many people have made so many great points, but I just wanted to underline the point of inclusivity, in part because, especially thinking of our youth, according to the Trevor Project, 41% of LGBTQ plus young people have seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year, and this was in 2023. So anything we can do to make those young people and all LGBTQ folks feel welcome, like the posters around town say, you belong here. So let's put our actions in line with our words and use another symbol to emphasize that point. There are, if you look it up, you can see all the different months where different marginalized groups are celebrated, like Black History Month or Women's History Month. And I would love to see the town, do all it can to support all of those awareness months. And the pride symbol is an important one that we can use to even say it without words. So I hope the town will seriously consider that. It's a symbol that would go a long way to making our town more inclusive. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker on Zoom.
Karen Rubio.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Karen.
Okay, sorry about that. Good evening, Council. I'm Karen Rubio, a 40-year resident of Los Gatos, and I'm asking the town to fly the pride flag every June for Pride Month. I wrote a whole thing, but in the interest of being brief, I'll skip a lot of that and get to the meat and potatoes. The fact is, while we're fortunate to live in a very liberal, inclusive Bay Area, LGBTQ plus people still often encounter hatred and inequality. And flying the flag is a way for us to continue bringing equality and justice to this marginalized group who encompass all races, religions, economic status, etc. The current president is rolling back so many protections for gay people and curtailing their rights. For example, the armed forces have discharged thousands of transgender troops who will now lose their career and pension. And LGBTQ plus folks are openly facing persecution from an administration bent on enforcing their Christian nationalist agenda. On a personal note, my mother's longtime neighbors and dear friends, Sheila and Mila, are moving out of the U.S. because they no longer feel safe here. When my father was dying from Parkinson's and falling all the time, these fine ladies were the first ones to race over and pick him up. They're wonderful people, and the fact that they're being persecuted just breaks my heart. It's heartbreaking that they've had to make the decision to move out of the country. And it just makes me feel so sad that much of the progress we've made for equality in the past few decades is being rolled back. I think the town flying the flag at this particular moment in history, it would be a much needed and wonderful way to show that we support our community members. And that's all. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Kinsey Lee.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Kinsey.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kinsey Lee, and tonight I speak both as a longtime resident of Los Gatos and a member of the Los Gatos Anti-Racism Coalition. Tonight I speak in support of raising the pride flag in Los Gatos. To be honest, I struggled today to think of a compelling argument for why. The reasons seemed self-evident to me. The brief sense of relief I feel when I see a rainbow pin or pride-inspired window dressing, it felt like the safety those cosmetic choices bring me should be obvious in a political landscape that threatens to erase my existence. In a town that historically has had its own challenges with discrimination, evinced by incidents like the one that sparked the United Against Hate initiative in 2021, for example. It seemed too, to me, that it cost next to nothing. Raising a flag doesn't seem like it would pose a significant monetary problem. Philosophically, my best guess would be that it could be seen as an act beyond service to the town. But if I, a community member of this town, would feel comforted and would feel served, what does that mean? Similarly, who would our town alienate and fail to serve in highlighting acceptance? I suppose my real question in this whole thing was, why not join our county compatriots and raise the pride flag? Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more speakers?
There are no more hands raised.
Okay, thank you. So we will close verbal communications. And as I mentioned earlier, normally if we pull something off of consent, it moves to the end of our agenda. But tonight, because there are so many people, just out of respect for your time, we would ask that the other folks on the agenda bear with us while we address item 22 first. And so before we even start with staff report on this, I wonder if the town attorney would provide some perspective on this item.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This agenda item pertains to a staff recommendation that the town council authorize entry into a tolling agreement with the applicant for a project at 101 Blossom Hill Road. The background is that the application was determined to be incomplete. Per statute, the applicant has the ability to appeal the town's incompleteness determination. And typically, such an appeal would need to be heard within 60 days of the date on which the appeal was filed. However, both parties, or at least from staff's perspective, it would be beneficial to delay hearing the appeal until after the town has received a decision in its pending declaratory relief action. As the council knows well, the council authorized filing of a declaratory relief action for a judicial determination on whether there is a single 90-day period in which to render an application complete, or whether applications have ongoing 90-day periods in which to render applications complete. And it's staff's view that tolling the town's deadline to hear the incompleteness appeal until after that decision has been received would be beneficial to the town.
Thank you. Questions? Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, just a quick question to clarify with some maybe more plain language for the benefit of all of us. So if the judicial hearing that we're speaking about falls in the town's favor, does that have the potential to give the town more authority or decision-making power in the process?
That would mean that it shortens the time in which it would mean that applicants have 180 days plus one additional 90-day period in which to render an application complete.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other clarifications from staff about what this hearing is about? Councilmember Rennie?
I think it's worth a clarification from the opposite direction that Vice Mayor Moore just mentioned. If we lose the declaratory relief, that then makes the appeal irrelevant, correct? Because they have unlimited time to get it correct.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So with that context, I hope that helps the public understand a little bit about what this hearing is about. We are not reviewing the application. We're not reviewing the architectural and site. we're not reviewing any of really the content of the application that's proposed for that site tonight. This hearing is about the procedure and the timing, and the tolling agreement proposes to wait until the court rules on other cases that we think are related to this one in this process. And as many of you know, the town was proactive in filing suit against several developers who were claiming unlimited capability, and we filed suit to get clarity from the court on whether that was true or not, because there was what we felt conflicting information from the state, and we felt that it would be to the benefit of the town to get that clarification rather than going through appeals processes or granting appeals on the timing. And so this then falls into that bucket. So I hope that's helpful. And we don't have any more staff report on this, correct?
That's correct, unless you would like more information, but there is a staff report that was provided as part of the consent calendar.
Okay, thank you. So what I'd like to do now is go to public comment. And so this is public comment about this project, 101 Blossom Hill Road. And so the first card I have is Joanne Rogers, and then Mark Mander, and then Rich Stevens.
Thank you for having me up here again. I just want to compliment you on having the extra time to find clarity on this project. And I have to mention that some of the problems with all of these building projects is that we did not get our housing element passed in time, and therefore we have builder's remedy. And I really put that on the council members. Not all of you here, because you weren't here at the time. But anyway, thank you for the delay and making it possible for there to be more clarity on this. So thank you.
Thank you. Mark Mander, and then Rich Stevens.
Good evening, council members, mayor, staff. My name is Mark Mander. I reside at 634 Industrial Way. The property I reside at is also known as 635 University Avenue. My family's owned the property since the early 50s, and we've seen a lot of changes in the town over that time. I've got notice of this project. I was able to take a look at it, and I don't know if it's proper now to be nitpicking at some of the things I've noticed, but I'll just do it anyway after hearing what you said. I guess the main thing is, the size and height of this project and how prominent it is there. It really seems to be dwarfing everything in the surrounding area. Looking at the plans on page G012, which is titled Context, it makes it pretty evident, showing all the surrounding properties and how dwarfed they are by the proposed building, which none of the buildings surrounding it even come close to half of the height of this project. Am I right in the fact that it's proposing 3 levels of parking, subterranean? Looking back in history, I recall when Old Town was expanding, and in the site of where the steamers was, that parking lot there was supposed to be 2 levels. They went down 1 and then hit groundwater, and couldn't complete the project for the approved parking. Could it be that if they run into the same problem here, trying to achieve 3, if they don't, will the project be reduced in size based on the parking they can produce? Other issues, the setback, Blossom Hill Road, North Santa Cruz. It seems like the building is right there on the corner with very little setback, like a box, and just doesn't look quite aesthetic there. Also, I'm concerned that the project goes through construction parking, how it'll affect my tenants with parking on University and Industrial and surrounding businesses. Is there any university parking in that area, the side of the street where the construction is, that's going to be affected with this? Are they losing parking on the street? So these are some of my concerns, and I'd like to thank you for listening. Evening.
Thank you. And I'll just point out that the with regard to this project will go through the Planning Commission at some point if the application becomes complete. So we don't know when that will be. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Rich Stevens. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I appreciate everything that you guys do. While I support the idea of tolling agreements, I question whether with the Blossom Hill Road project, if the builder has been in cooperative fashion with the town. Again, I support them in the case where there is something to lean towards, and I understand where this one is going because there's some decisions that need to be made. So I'm not saying yes or no on that, but I really quickly want to talk about two things. This is a seven-story building in the middle of single-family homes. And that, to me, as you know from my past and my fight previously, I very strongly disagree with. It's just horrible to think about single-family homes having to look up at a seven-story building. It's just tragic. I did have another idea after reading the write-up today, and I would ask you to explore whether the change of applicant, the withdrawal of Toby Long, can be used to deem the original application invalid, requiring it to be resubmitted, and therefore lose the builder's remedy process. So that's something I hope that somebody can look at, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Butler, and then Susan Testa.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for letting me speak. I'll try and be brief because I think you did a really good action there by seeking clarity on this. And some of the feedback that you're going to get will help that, I suspect. The action regarding completeness is perhaps not quite specific here. And I look back at an email I sent a year ago, and it was interesting. I said, my preliminary observation is that this proposed project is totally out of scale for the site and location and out of character with the town, and it should be rejected as such. You're not rejecting it, but you're getting some time to sort a few things out, and I congratulate you on that. I looked at the lawyer's letter, the applicant's lawyer's letter, and there's an interesting paragraph in it which I'd like to read because it sort of tends to sum up the issue that we've got here. He says here in his letter, the project exterior has carefully considered the town's objective design standards to articulate the massing and differentiate the facade elements on all levels. Classical proportions and materials are used to reflect the historic character of the town. I suggest that that statement is somewhat misleading and somewhat incorrect. This is not historic Los Gatos. In no way. So one has this conflict here between what's being proposed in this regard and what the lawyer is stating. A couple of months ago, I came to a meeting here and I asked the question, can the council give any direction to staff regarding acceptance of these proposals based on density, units per acre? This project has got 63 units on 1 acre, which is quite huge. One of the council members, and I think it was the mayor, passed that question to the attorney and said, well, what is the limit? And the attorney said, well, she thought it was 22 units per acre. We're looking at 63 here. So that also illustrates the issue that you've got in terms of scale and height. The comment was made about the parking. It's a 3-level deep parking garage. They're going to have to dig a 35-foot deep hole, and they're going to have to shore city streets on 2 sides and private property on the other. That gets really expensive.
Thank you.
Okay.
There'll be opportunity to speak about this in future
Excuse me,
hearings. Yep.
Could I?
Yes.
So I wanted to reiterate that what's on the agenda tonight is execution of a tolling agreement with the applicant at 101 Blossom Hill Road.
Okay.
I think some residents did get a card for a hearing that was originally scheduled on the incompleteness appeal, and I think that was scheduled for the same evening. But because staff is recommending the tolling agreement, the hearing on the incompleteness appeal has been taken off the calendar. And then any comments on the project itself, a good place for those to be provided would be, as you mentioned, at the Planning Commission meeting when it's considered.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Just before I finish, just one comment. My suggestion,
briefly, yeah.
You go for half of the units at least. And that's going to make a big difference as to in its design.
Yeah.
I suggest you do some negotiation.
Thank you. Allison, I can't read your writing exactly. Is that Barnett? And then Peter Rayon.
Hi, I'm Susan Testa, lifelong resident of Los Gatos. Our California state government, thank you for tonight, by the way. Our California state government has left the lid off the candy jar for developers, making it far easier for them to propose large projects with minimal local oversight. Because of delays in approving Los Gatos' housing element, developers took advantage of the state law known as the builder's remedy, which allowed them to bypass many local zoning rules and push forward housing proposals with as little as 20% affordable units. While our housing element was finally certified by the state in July 2024, projects that applied during the delay, including some massive proposals, are still moving forward. Anyone who lives in Los Gatos and has experienced weekend beach traffic can only imagine what our daily traffic will be like when these new developments are built. But that doesn't seem to matter. Progress is marching on. Damn the streets that can't accommodate the traffic. Did you know the state required Los Gatos to plan for 1,993 new homes by 2031, with about 860 of those units designated as affordable? If the state truly cared about affordability, why not require all 1,993 units to be affordable? Because at the end of the day, this is about money, not affordability. Our town's housing element actually plans for over 2,400 units. The state mandated 1,993 plus a buffer to meet future housing targets. It can be exhausting trying to stay up on top of all this, but if you care about where you live and the future of Los Gatos, it's not selfish to want to keep a small historic town small, and it's not selfish to want to plan responsibly for growth. Now let me cast a light on what's happening. Our town government, for reasons I don't fully understand, has decided to fast-track many of these projects. Los Gatos has received 18 to 20 applications under SB 330, a law that streamlines housing approvals and limits public input. Many of these projects applied during the window when our housing element was out of compliance. And some could add thousands of car trips daily to our already strained roads. I want to be clear tonight. I'm strongly opposed to the proposed 7-story development at 101 Blossom Hill Road. This project is out of scale with our town's character. It will overwhelm local infrastructure and it will add to the already unmanageable traffic in this area. I also want to address the town's consideration of the tolling agreement. with the developer. I urge the town to ensure that any tolling agreement with 101 Blossom Hill Road applicant is used to protect the public interest, not as a way to delay decisions, reduce transparency, or disadvantage residents who are deeply concerned about this oversized project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Allison, and thank you. And then Peter Rehan.
Good evening, everybody. It's heartwarming to see so many Los Gatos out here this evening. Thank you for making the time. Thank you all for serving. Very much appreciated. When I applied for building permits in the Planning Commission office a couple of years ago, the planners proudly said to me, Los Gatos is a town. It is not a city. I totally agree with that. I love the city, and having more high-rises, more and more high-rises, more planning commissions trying to arrange more and more high-rises is going to make Los Gatos into a city, not a town. Let's keep that symbol, at least half of that symbol going, as in the town. We've already lost the beautiful fruit trees, but let's leave the town of Los Gatos as a town. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Peter Rehan, and then Karen Yamamoto.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to again regale you with my thoughts on development, and I can't really repeat the wisdom of so many of my neighbors, including Ms. Rogers, about the problems associated with these large developments, and particularly as they affect the children of Los Gatos and their safety and crossing streets and the like. But I would like to put this in maybe a legal or equitable request that the council reconsider its approval of the project at 143 and 151 East Main. I wrote a letter on, I think it was May 25th, to the council opposing the project. I attended the project.
So I'm sorry. The reconsideration of a project that we approved is not directly related to this agenda item, and so I have to ask that you keep your comments to 101 Blossom Hill and the tolling agreement that's in front of us now.
Okay. Well, actually, I don't have anything to add to what my other neighbors and people have said about 101. I don't think the tolling agreement should be approved. It's optional on the part of the town, and I don't think it should be approved. But if you'd like me to come back and speak to the other issue, I think they're related in the sense that they both have to do with the development.
Right. There would be opportunity to speak about that at verbal communications.
Okay.
And so that would probably be the appropriate time.
Okay, very good. I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Karen Yamamoto, and then Richard Kananen, again on the 101 Blossom Hill project tolling agreement.
Hello. I just need clarification on the tolling agreement. So for the clarification of the tolling agreement on this project, we'll put a hold on this application until after the court ruling, and then the developer gets more time for the application afterwards? Or will the project just be rejected? Or how is that all working? Because I did not understand what was being said.
So we can't enter into discussion with staff at this point, but your comments have been noted, and council members may raise related questions of staff.
Clarify?
I said we can potentially, council members may have a question for staff later after we close the public comment.
Okay.
Thank you. Richard Kananen, and then Lisa Harris.
So I would hope that you could use this time when you're discussing the tolling agreement in the same way that the tolling agreement period was used on the other side of town. I really appreciate what the Swensons did. The Swensons redesigned their project from those monstrosity high-rises to acceptable townhouse designs. So the other half of my point is I'm reaching out to Lonnie and Patricia. You've been able to enjoy a great life here in Los Gatos, and I'm calling on you to negotiate with the town to create a more appropriate design for your property. While I know that the state has granted you the ability to build this totally inappropriate monstrosity on the corner of Winchester and Blossom Hill, you know as well as I do how negatively impacted this design would be on the neighbors in this part of town. Do you really want this to be your legacy when you make your money and then on this project and then move on to another town? I ask you to do the right thing, just as the Swensons did on the project on the other side of town. They revised their project from that huge high-rise design, and I commend them for doing that, and I ask you to do the same thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lisa Harris, and then Marilee and Gatos.
Thank you for your time. I am a resident of Los Gatos for 22 years now, and I am concerned about 101 Blossom Hill. I feel that the size is irresponsible for the location, and it poses a health and safety risk. Recently, I just came back from visiting Kaanapali, Maui, which is a few miles down the road from Lahaina. I truly was not emotionally prepared to see the devastation that the fire left that town, and it made me think of Los Gatos. Lahaina is 11 square miles. We are 12 square miles. In Lahaina, 102 lives were lost, 2,200 structures destroyed that were homes and businesses, 12,000 people were displaced. The town was destroyed in hours, and it was deadly due to chaotic evacuation conditions, inadequate warning systems, and the rapid spread of the fire. They don't have the vegetation that we do, and that's something to think about. People were trapped in traffic jams with narrow streets and limited access points and dense housing. Think of our town. What does it look like on a normal day? And what does it look like during summer traffic? I am terrified if a fire goes through our town. At least in Lahaina, they had the ocean to jump into. We don't even have an ocean. They had around 2 ways in and out of the town, just like Los Gatos does. I'm asking that you consider all of these safety issues for Blossom Hill. And I have questions specifically for Maria Risto, Rob Rennie, and Rob Moore. I want to say that I'm very disappointed regarding the Cafe Dio project, in spite of many,
Council member, thank you. I'll take care of it.
So
I would ask you to focus your comments on 101 Blossom Hill and the tolling agreement. Thank you.
So my question is, if you continue to plan to vote when you, excuse me, thrown off now. What plan do you have to protect and improve health and safety in town if you continue to approve these builder remedy projects that are overblown? Thank you.
Thank you. Marilee and Gatos, and if I've got that wrong, let me know.
Good.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Marilee. I'm your neighbor. I live on Villa Avenue. I've lived on Villa for 13 years, and I've lived in the town for 25 years. I have 3 kids that have gone through the school system. Being on Villa Avenue, I watch the kids come and park at 8:30 in the morning, and then they come and move their car during flex time, and then they move their car again at lunch. And parking is a major problem in this town, and I'm hoping for every decision that you make regarding development in this town, you're thinking about the parking. I have a dog, I walk, I hike, I can barely cross the street in the town. It's dangerous. The road rage, it's really hard. I mean, I love Los Gatos, not on the weekends. The beach traffic is insane. And I think about the Lark Avenue, like the North 40, totally changed Lark Avenue forever. I'm worried about Blossom Hill and the implications of the traffic and the pedestrian safety and the 7 stories. And we're like this beautiful little town. And I pay $25,000 a year in property tax. I pay for 2 parking spaces on my permitted parking on Villa Avenue. I can never get a parking space on my own street. that I pay the 25 grand in property tax for. And I hope that you can consider us the people, we the people who live here, and we love our town. And it's changing way too fast. Slow it down. We've got the lodge. Let that go through. Stop everything else. Look at the implications. Why are we as taxpayers paying for this emergency road to get between the high school football field and the baseball field for the Los Gatos Lodge emergency exit? Like, why are we as taxpayers paying for that? The developer should pay for 100%. Please think of us. Think of the people. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the last card that I have. Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak on this topic? Oh, I'm sorry. I see. Gus, you have comments on this one?
Yeah, I just quick.
Go ahead. You've got 3
comment.
minutes.
It's the same issue. If we could have, a lot of people, if we could pull the consent of 1/5 of the minutes, even, you're making mistakes. You can realize that. And stop. Let because the courts should also fill you in that. I filed a class action on this kind of agenda, and I sent you pictures of the it's a quick thing, but it covers a broad thing, and I think that the California is putting all towns and cities in this predicament. And we're fighting against you guys, and it's just wrong. And you guys got to stop. You got to just say, hey, stop. Let's everybody take a step back and see if we can't. I think that's fraud if the developer across the street. But that's something that we shouldn't talk about. But I'm just saying, take the consent minutes off, because that was that's definitely fraud. I couldn't even talk to you before that tonight. And if you could just take that off, and we can, and the town can talk about what's going on, and have it, have a discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone on Zoom on this topic?
There are no hands on Zoom.
Okay, so I have one more card, and that's Lindley.
I think I just really want to say that I don't think that the town council in this town, the majority, meaning 3/5, for decades has really ever cared about the people in this town. 3/5 of the town council, if not more, voted to destroy my perfectly legal Airbnb back in 2010.
So if I could ask
and
you
so
to keep
the
your
reason,
remarks focused on
yes,
101
and so
Blossom Hill Road.
101 Blossom Hill is going to create a lot of chaos. But I was told that one car for my Airbnb was going to create so much chaos that they had to close down my business. And that was a very bad decision. It hurt me and my family tremendously. Think of all the people in this town, because of arbitrary decisions that didn't need to be made. Who is benefiting from this? That's what I'd like to know. 3 of you seem to be benefiting, because I'm not benefiting. I have to also pay to park on Tate Avenue. I don't have alley access. So why does 101 get to exist?
Thank you. Again,
if nobody,
if you could keep your remarks to the tolling agreement on 101, that would be very helpful.
So why would the town council allow the most ridiculous stuff in the world to happen that's happening when you didn't even allow my little Airbnb? So I think there are some screws loose. I think that I think I have nothing good to say about the town council's decisions. I think that you don't care one bit about the people. And I have lived here since 1967, as if that matters. This town is so going to hell. I have a feeling God is going to destroy this town because of all the homosexuality being promoted to our children. Back to 101 Blossom Hill. Yeah, not a good choice. Not a good choice, 101 Blossom Hill, or any of the other buildings. Parking, bad. Arbitrary decisions being made by people who obviously haven't lived here that long, right? Don't really know how wonderful this town used to be. not so much anymore, but yeah, I can't wait to get out of here. I just don't know how to get out of here. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. A lot of people are leaving California. 101 Blossom Hill, bad idea, bad idea. Thank you.
Thank you. FA, I can't read the last word, so if you don't mind giving us your name, that'd be great.
Yeah, hi. My name is F.A. Tornolu. I'm also lifelong resident of Los Gatos. I'm going to keep this extremely brief. I only have really one comment to make because I'm no expert in the legality of the tolling situation. I just like to echo something that one of the other town residents said, which was, namely that this building very obviously doesn't fit the town's architectural style at all. All I'd have to say is I'm very for the idea of building new housing in the town. I'm a young person. I know it's expensive to live here. I like the idea of making it more affordable, letting young families move in here. But it's really quite ugly. I think it should be considered vandalism how ugly it is. And build it, but make it look nice. I mean, we have lots of good examples around town of what things should look like. And this doesn't look like it. What it says in the document that it fits the architectural style is a flat lie. Again, what that has to do with the tolling, I'm not quite sure. I was told to just come here to talk about my opinions, I guess, on the building. So if it's off topic, mea culpa. But really, build it, but make it look nice, please.
Okay, thank you very much. That's the last card that I have, so I will close public comment on this, and I just want to make one observation. I know folks have been speaking about the development itself, and we've been saying this is about the process and et cetera. But from my reading of the letter from the applicant, I think that it opened the door to discussion about the development with regard to whether it meets the requirements for builder's remedy. And so I did allow a little wider latitude perhaps than the town attorney suggested. If someone has a problem with that, they can file a code of conduct complaint if they like. But I thought it was better to hear the public comment as long as it was about 101 and the development application for 101. So thank you for that. And now we will go to comments or questions from council on this item. So Councilmember Badami, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for the town attorney, and it's related to process. So should council elect to reconsider a decision that might be made in the future or that was made, is there a time frame from the date of the decision? I thought I read 10 days. Am I correct?
So there's 10 days to appeal a council decision, and then with regard to reconsideration, there's a policy that the town has adopted that says the request for reconsideration needs to be made at the meeting immediately following the meeting at which the original decision was made.
Thank you.
Councilmember Risto?
Thank you. I appreciate the explanation of the tolling agreement. I think there was a lot of information that went out to the public, and given that we were going to hear the completeness, that we were going to have a hearing on the completeness issue tonight, and then the council working with staff, we're moving toward a tolling agreement so that we can get clarity on the legal issues. I just want to make sure the public understands, and I understand somebody did say don't accept the tolling agreement. Now, can you talk through what would happen if we did not take this tolling agreement? Wouldn't we then just have to have a hearing and make a decision with incomplete information?
Yes, and so that would mean that either party could initiate litigation at this point. The town would need to hear the appeal on the incompleteness, and so it would, accelerate everything that needs to happen.
Okay, thank you. Because as a decision maker, I would prefer not to be trying to make a decision on the completeness when we don't have clarity from the courts on how many opportunities somebody has to resubmit. And if they find with us, then it makes the hearing much simpler. And if we make a decision and then the court decision goes a different way in the fall, then our decision is undermined. So, I just want to say I'm going to be supporting this tolling agreement because as a council, as we discuss this helps us understand how to position ourselves on the completeness decision after we get clarity from the courts.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. So just to ask one of the public commenters' questions, Karen Yamamoto asked, if we approve the tolling agreement this evening, which we understand extends the timeline for the appeal and challenges, what happens next?
So the town will continue to talk to the applicant. And then in the meantime, the town's deadline to hear the appeal, the applicant's deadline to resubmit, and the deadline for either party to sue the other party will be tolled, meaning delayed, until 60 days after there's a judicial decision in the declaratory relief action that the town has filed.
And as a follow-on, which we're expecting October timeframe?
We're anticipating mid-October for that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Rennie?
So following on to Mr. Kanan's idea of the tolling agreement as a good opportunity to negotiate within the builder, between the town and the builder, which is kind of an odd process that we haven't followed very often. How would that process work, and how do we negotiate? How do we get information from the public in this process to understand how to negotiate?
I think staff's been taking note of public comments that's been made at previous meetings, and it just extends the time for the two parties to talk to each other.
Okay, and if I just add a little my own comment to that, a negotiation is often a trade-off, right? So it's pretty clear we don't want tall, but I also heard at least two people say we don't want to lose parking. Well, underground parking is one of the things that's really expensive, and if you want a builder to knock off height, letting them underpark is often a good negotiating tool, but I heard you don't want either one of those. So I would just say it would be useful to receive some emails on ideas for trade-offs, and not just what you would like to see, but if you're the guy doing the building, what might you be willing to take and give up, kind of thing. If we're going to do a negotiation, how do we know what they are? So I just want to kind of put that idea out there.
So I had a couple of questions that reflect some of the public comment. There was concern about whether this tolling agreement, executing it, is accelerating or streamlining the process, making it happen faster, or making it less transparent. So does this executing this tolling agreement have an effect on accelerating the development, or have an effect on making it less transparent about what's going on?
In terms of transparency, any project that's proposed would need to go through the town's normal public hearing process. And so the projects would come to Planning Commission, followed by the town council. And the tolling agreement doesn't have any effect on that process. And then in terms of timing, the tolling agreement delays the time by which the town has to hear the incompleteness appeal. It also delays the time by which the applicant needs to resubmit, and it also delays the time for either party to initiate litigation to be 60 days from what we anticipate to be mid-October.
Okay, thank you. And then one other question that seemed to come up, Councilmember Rennie touched on this, and I think there was the relating this tolling agreement to a tolling agreement that had been done on another property. Does this tolling agreement allow for the town to negotiate with a developer for more appropriate development.
Yes, separate and apart from the tolling agreement, staff and the applicant can always, and the council for that matter, can always be talking about the project. So that doesn't affect the town's ability to negotiate. And what was the first part of your question?
Well, does this tolling agreement
differ from Newtown?
No, not differ. Does this tolling agreement allow for the town to negotiate with the developer for more appropriate development?
Yes, it does.
And then could you expand on that? In what way does it allow for the town to negotiate?
It builds in more time before either party has to take its next step. And during that intervening time, the parties can continue to be in conversation.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. Other questions, comments, or would someone like to try to move this forward? Okay. Councilmember Rennie. I'm sorry, Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. I move to authorize the town manager to execute the tolling agreement with the applicant for the housing development project at 101 Blossom Hill Road.
Housing element project, is that what you said?
Oh, I think I misspoke. Housing development.
Okay, I misheard you. I'm sorry. Okay.
Second.
Okay, Vice Mayor seconds. Further discussion or comments? Okay, I don't have any further comments except that to again explain to the public that I think this has been primarily a hearing about process, and that there will be ample opportunity for the public to comment on this project. In fact, those comments are welcome, and hopefully with this agreement, which I will support, we will have a little bit more time in order to do this and not immediately move to a legal confrontation. And so we are certainly hopeful that this court case will be resolved in the time frame that we are expecting, and that will help us with this process. And that I assure you there will be ample opportunity to dig into this development application as it is deemed complete. And the first step with that will be a hearing at the Planning Commission, and then this project would also go to the Town Council after that. So I hope that explains things, and so I'd like to call for a roll call on this.
Councilmember Ista?
Aye.
Councilmember Rennie?
Aye.
Councilmember Badami?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Moore?
Aye.
Mayor Hudas?
Aye. Thank you, and thanks for your attention on this. And now we will take a, let's do a 10-minute break, and so we will resume at 8:56. Thank you. Okay, thank you. The town council meeting is back in session, and we finished with item number 22, and so we'll be moving on to item number 23. If I could ask people in the corridor to either keep it down or we could close the doors, because the sound, it's a little confusing in here. Okay, great. Thank you. So item 23 is about conducting a brush abatement program. And so if we could get a staff report, that would be terrific. Ms. Burnham?
Sure. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Each year, the town adopts a hazardous vegetation abatement program, which we call our brush abatement program. This pertains to parcels located in the wildland urban interface area. Santa Clara County Fire administers the program on behalf of the town, and Assistant Fire Marshal Brad Fox is here tonight from County Fire in support of this item. Town Code Section 9.2.025 requires that properties within the wildland urban interface area maintain defensible spaces near their home. Each year, property owners are reminded that they must remove the vegetation from around their homes and other structures to create defensible space. Throughout the spring, County Fire performed inspections and provided education to property owners in the WUI to encourage compliance with the vegetation removal requirements. On May 20th, Town Council of 2025, Council adopted a resolution declaring that unmanaged vegetation is a public nuisance and ordered the owners who had not already done abatement to perform abatement, and you set tonight's hearing date to consider objections from any property owners that did not comply with the WUI requirement. Attachment 1 of the staff report that was included with the council agenda identified 12 non-compliant properties that had not provided defensible space. As of this morning, 8 of those 12 properties have complied. So tonight's hearing is to consider the 4 remaining properties, which were included in a desk item that was issued this afternoon. It's now attachment 5 of the memo. After tonight's hearing, assuming council takes action to adopt the proposed resolution, County Fire will re-inspect the 4 properties in question, and if they remain non-compliant, County Fire will perform vegetation removal on these properties, and staff will return to council in August to adopt a resolution authorizing that these properties be assessed for the cost of the vegetation removal and the administrative costs associated with the program. If, when County Fire appears to conduct the vegetation removal, the property owner has addressed the vegetation, then the owners wouldn't be charged for abatement, but would still be responsible for the administrative fees. And with that, we are open for any questions from the council.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to ask, 3 of the remaining 4 are all on Francis Oaks Way. Do you know if those are owned by the same person or if there's any relationship between them, or is that just a wild coincidence?
I do not, but I can ask Mr. Fox if he knows.
I believe that it's a coincidence, but I'm not 100% sure. If you give me a couple of minutes, I can look it up.
Yeah, that'd be great. And just as a follow-on while you're looking, if they're not the same owner, I'm curious if there's something in particular about that area that makes it difficult, you know, if there's some reason why Francis Oaks Way is particularly problematic. Thank you.
Sure.
So just for clarification, so in the staff report, there were, I think, 13 properties, and now there are 4. So were the other 9 resolved in between publishing the staff report and tonight's hearing?
That is my understanding, yes. They abated them on their own.
Okay, and those just happened in the last, whatever, 72 hours or so?
I'm going to ask Mr. Fox if he can answer that. I too am in trying the database looking up property ownership for Francis Oak, but
we did conduct additional inspections this week prior to tonight's hearing. I believe
4 of the properties were cleared because they performed the abatement, and there were actually a few properties that did not receive the public hearing letters, and that was due to our system not getting the letters out to them, so those had to be removed because they did not receive the hearing letter.
Okay, but those properties are still of concern?
As far as we know, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That's why I asked the question. Any other questions? So I'm going to open this for public. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Risto, I apologize. It's hard to see the hand.
Thank you. I guess I have a follow-on question to that. If some properties are removed because they weren't noticed, are they noticed now, and how will that be dealt with? How will they just have a longer timeline to perform their own abatement, and will that come back to us if there's not completion by another date?
We will keep working with the property owners to achieve compliance. I believe if council wanted, council would have to have another hearing for us to be able to add them to the list. We did not get them a hearing notice for tonight. They did receive inspection notices for both inspections that were performed on the properties. They just did not get the hearing notice.
Okay, I guess so the follow-on, we don't know if they're complying or not. They were just removed because they didn't receive notification.
Correct.
Okay, I think when we start making some decisions, we'll have to decide how we're gonna make sure we have everyone in compliance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to open this for public comment. I don't have any cards on this item. I'm wondering if anyone is on Zoom who'd like to speak about it.
There are no hands on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. I will close public comment on this item and come back to council for questions, comments, or motion. Councilmember Badami.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe our action tonight was twofold, and one was to hear if there was any objections, and there were none. So I just want to make the comment that we take wildfire risk very seriously in this town. So I will gladly make the motion to order abatement of the public nuisance and potential fire hazard pursuant to the Town of Los Gatos Municipal Code section in Chapter 9 regarding defensible space to properties identified in Attachment 5.
Thank you. And is Attachment 5 the newest list? Yes, it is. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Vice Mayor?
Second.
Okay. Further comments or questions? Okay. Then let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Risto? Did you have a question?
I have a question, though. I had my hand up to ask if I could make a friendly amendment.
Go ahead.
So in terms of dealing with the other properties that, through no fault of their own, were not notified, will we have a second motion on how to deal with them, or can we make an amendment that we get some follow-up or we have another hearing for those properties?
I can propose that the council direct staff to work with County Fire to discuss the best way to reach the properties that weren't included this evening.
Okay, I think that sounds great. That would be my friendly amendment if possible.
Can you repeat that? You want us to encourage staff to...
direct staff to work with County Fire to discuss the best way to reach the properties that weren't on the list tonight.
I accept that amendment.
I do too. And I just also realized I didn't get an answer to my question if y'all have it.
I do have an answer to your question. They are not owned by the same people. Three different properties in 3 different locations on Francis Oak.
Okay, that's super interesting. So maybe if this comes back, I would also be curious about that. That's, just seems anomalous.
And they do have different violations, so they're not all the same violations.
Okay, thank you. Let's have a roll call on this, please.
Councilmember Risto?
Aye.
Councilmember Rennie?
Aye.
Councilmember Badami?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Moore?
Aye.
Mayor Hudas?
Aye. So that concludes item 23, and thank you, Ms. Burnham, and thank you, Mr. Fox, for continuing to work on this. And I think we'll be hearing soon about the other properties. So the next item is item 24. And Mr. Nathan, will you be giving us a staff report on this?
I will. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Vice Mayor, Council. Before you is an appeal of an architectural and site application, a project that is located at 16511 Cypress Way, and it is an HR 2.5 zone. On August 30, 2024, the applicant applied for an architectural and site application to demolish a 587 square foot two-car garage with an attached 96 square foot shed and construct a new approximately 12,000 square foot detached accessory structure consisting of three-car garage with a workshop. On April 23, 2025, the Planning Commission denied the application, unable to make the required finding that the project was in compliance with the hillside development standard due to the excessive grading depth of cut needed to construct an expanded garage. The hillside development standard and guidelines limits the grading cut depth outside the footprint of the primary residence to 4 feet, and the applicant proposed the maximum cut depth of 13 feet 6 inches for the accessory building, 11 feet for the hardscape, and 7 feet for the landscape. And on April 30th of this year, the property owner appealed the Planning Commission's decision, and the applicant indicated that there was an error and abuse of the discretion of the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission decision is not supported by substantial evidence in the record. The applicant's support letter can be found in attachment 5, and this concludes staff's presentation, and the staff will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. This is probably a good time to do disclosures and to describe the rest of the process. So, council members, do you have anything that you'd like to disclose? Vice Mayor?
I visited the property, but it was gated. I should have talked to the residents ahead of time, but visited the property, was able to see what I could see.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Risto, thank you.
Thank you. I visited the property. I actually walked to it and walked back from it, so I had the opportunity to get a good look at how it does or doesn't appear from the road. I did meet with the property owners to gain access to the property and was able to see the inside of the garage and the area surrounding the garage and get the full context.
Thank you. I also visited the property twice, once outside through the gate and then once inside the property, and met with the property owner. Okay, so the way the hearing for an appeal works is that the appellant, who's also the original applicant, has 5 minutes for their presentation, and then the public will have up to 3 minutes each if there are any cards from the public, and then it'll return back to the applicant/appellant for another 3 minutes, and then we'll close the hearing and go into deliberations. So with that, I would ask, first of all, are there any questions from the council for staff before we have the appellant come up? Okay, so Michael Harris, and you and your team have 5 minutes, and also if there are questions that could extend that time.
Okay, we also have a slide presentation.
Okay, let's wait for that to come up, please. I have a question while it's coming up. Sure. Was this presentation given to the Planning Commission, or is it different?
No, it's in response to the appeal and the staff report.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not seeing the presentation. Did you send it?
I think Michael sent it to the clerk's email.
I sent it this morning.
Would you like some more time to find that? We can take a quick recess.
Sure.
Okay. So we're going to recess for, let's say, 2 minutes and get an update at that point because we would like to see the presentation. Thank you. And so go ahead, Mr. Harris.
Wait until the slides are up. Good evening. I'm Michael Harris. I'm the architect for the Colanders. The Colanders have been residents of Los Gatos for 35 years, raised 3 children here, and plan to retire here and are present over there. So first, I wanted to give a little history of the site. The house was built in 1956 with the attached garage. Somewhere in the early 1960s, a detached garage was built, and what was left of the previous garage was put into a livable space. It was built well before the hillside guidelines and standards, about 40 years. It was originally built utilizing cuts and depths that are well over 4 feet. The site is very developed, and basically we're proposing to build the garage in the same location, utilizing all the access features to it, just expanding it to accommodate a 3rd car garage and a workshop area. Now, I'm showing some existing pictures of the site. It's showing signs of aging. such as efflorescence for the retaining walls that tend to oxidize elements within the garage. That will need to be addressed. The other thing is the roof framing is showing signs of deflection and will need to be addressed as well. Next slide, please. You can see parts of the rear property, essentially with the garage. You see a sliver of wall with primarily roof. Next slide, please. And then the challenges of the southeast corner, which essentially the hill starts to rapidly ramp up. And that's basically the subject of the grading cuts that fell out of the normal compliance of that. Next slide, please. This project is supported by the 3 immediate neighbors that surround it. There's an exhibit with letters in it. And then also those same 3 residences have 3 car or more car garages, and there's 3 others that were within 1,000 feet. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. You can see the color coding of the grading exemptions or grading cuts, and then we also looked at an alternate to reduce the landscaping. Keep in mind, next slide, please. To where that could reduce at least the landscaping. Essentially, even a 1 square foot addition would exceed the 4 foot maximum cuts. And so essentially, there's no opportunity for an addition if you strictly follow the hillside guidelines on that respect. Next slide, please. You can see site sections of it. For the most part, it is a softer transition, except for the southeast corner. Now, there were several instances. I know that some of you did not visit the site. You don't get the same perspective when you personally see the conditions and the context from that standpoint. And can see that it naturally flows with the extension of that area. For the grading permit, there is a line of questioning about the 50 cubic yards in the Planning Commission that was deemed or interpreted as excessive. That's actually a trigger for a grading permit. And so there's really no limit on that element. There is also reference to a soils report and concerns about safety and stability. And without the benefit of reviewing the report, there's lack of engineering judgment, and that element should really stay out of a planning commission level at that stage. I know my time's up.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions? Councilmember Rennie has a question.
It's kind of a long question. When I have not visited the site, and when I look at these plans, I can't understand how much of the hillside is really being additionally cut. I know we're talking big depths, but I don't have a feel for like how many square feet of footprint are we adding to the cut into the hillside, and how much is behind it and how much is beside it. And you went quickly through the slide that had the colors on it and the green colors. I don't understand that slide at all. Okay. So if you could take your time and walk me through that, sure, if it's okay with the mayor.
If you can go a couple of previous slides, I'll tell you when to stop. Back. One more. There you go. Nope.
With the green on it?
Yeah, one more. There you go. Okay, so the blue color represents the portion of the addition for the structure going more than 4 feet into the hill. That requires more than 4 feet of a cut. The purple represents the hardscape, that basically the retaining wall for the back walk space behind the garage, as well as where the side where the drainage flows. And so that's what that represents as far as when it exceeds 4 feet.
And the green is just making
Just
the
general-
hillside
yeah,
smoother?
Just general landscaping. And as you can see, basically feathering it up at a softer slope and to accommodate proper drainage, and then meeting the specific requirements in the geotechnical investigation. Now,
So which of, just to speed this up a little, which parts of this is the old garage and what's new? I had the impression the garage was getting wider, but it looks like it's actually getting deeper instead. Because on the top is the driveway, correct?
Yes. If you go to a previous slide. Okay. So that one shows the existing garage, and the red shows the outline of the addition. So it's going back a couple of feet and then over approximately, I think, 10 feet.
Okay, so the big blue piece that you showed us was where the tree is. That looks like it's number 1618 or something like that.
Yeah, and we're removing the trees.
But that's where the blue was on that other diagram.
Correct.
And so the portion of the red that's outside, how many square feet is this of additional footprint?
Let me look at this really quick. If planning could help me out with the numbers.
Outside the footprint, it'll be 293 cubic yard.
293?
That's right.
That's the total additional red area is 293, or this.
The total will be.
It's roughly
I guess what I'm
it's roughly 650 square feet additional.
I guess what I'm really interested in, how many square feet of deep hillside cut are we doing? Because I'm guessing that the front portion of the red is not a 4-foot cut, right?
No, the front is not. It aligns with the existing driveway.
So maybe about half of this 600 is deep cut?
I would say maybe 2/3.
Okay, thank you. I think I have a much better understanding now.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Vice Mayor?
Thank you. So my concerns around building and development in the WUI usually center around worsening hillfire danger or wildfire danger, and so I wanted to understand. It seems like you're making some pretty substantial improvements in the wildfire safety of the property, but I wanted to understand these. So the AMMRs, the alternate means and methods request, like the 5,000 gallon fire water tank, is that new? Is that new as of the construction of this?
Yes. So essentially the road is not wide enough for a fire truck to get down. And so we had to go with an alternate method and actually got approval from the county fire department. So in that, a new 5,000 gallon water tank, what's called a wharf fire hydrant, which essentially is brought down to the driveway level for a fire truck to connect a hose to. Then we're putting in sprinklers, putting in a firewall between the garage and the breezeway, so there's separation there for added protection. And then what we found is even the fire department got lost. And so we're putting another address sign at the fork of the road to point to this address as part of that application.
Great. Thank you. It's helpful.
Yep.
A follow-up question for staff about this before we let you go. If the application had been simply to rebuild in the existing footprint, would that have triggered this 5,000 gallon tank?
Most likely not, because we just rebuild on the same footprint.
Okay, thank you. Other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And, oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. I just have a quick question. I understand the expansion to the side to add another bay for the garage. What is the expansion toward the back? The purpose of that?
That's for a deeper section to fully incorporate vehicles as well as tools. Back in the 1960s, garages were a lot smaller, and so it's a very tight fit right now.
Okay, I guess a follow-on question is, when I saw the garage, I saw the evidence of efflorescence, and having my own zero-car garage that's dug into the hillside, it's really hard to deal with water without putting in a lot of drainage behind. I didn't know if this project was going to include additional, water stopping ability or, but that extra distance is just fully to fit a normal vehicle.
Yeah, so as far as drainage is concerned, we utilize the exterior wall as a retaining wall, and then the back area where we have the walkway, we lower it a little bit so you have better roof flashing so water doesn't seep up into the structure. And then you have another retaining wall that helps divert water around the structure down into a drainage drain, if you will, and then help divert the water around and not necessarily add more to the runoff from the site. So we're working with engineering on that, and the geotech report also addresses some of those elements.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question. So apparently there was challenges for the Planning Commission to visit the site. Was that on purpose, or what happened? Why weren't planning commissioners able to get in there?
I think they all got lost.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you for that. Is there anyone for public comment?
There are no hands.
If you can speak about this item, if you have a pertinent to this item.
A question on the fire, the fire hose. How long is it? And if there's a plan in place, if you're willing to share in location with the fire department, because that sounds like a good idea. If you had a long hose, and anytime there's a fire in the whole area, they know that there's a 5,000 tank, and if they have access to it, is what I was wondering if he.
Okay, Ms. Quintana.
Lee Quintana. This time I will remember to say that I'm speaking as a resident and not as the chair of the Historic Preservation Committee. Excuse me. Generally, I'm opposed to giving exceptions if a project can be built without requiring the exceptions in a manner that is consistent with the other allowable things in the hillside standards and guidelines. My question here is that obviously that this is going to benefit the town in the sense that it's going to add the water tank and some other things. But that raises the question, to me at least, that with the changes in the requirements from the fire department for various projects, whether the town should be looking at changing standards and guidelines, et cetera, or specific exceptions for meeting fire requirements so that projects don't have to continually ask for exceptions to our standards. In other words, in this instant, we're interested in fire safety and our standards should reflect that, and there shouldn't have to be this going between bodies in order to get a project approved.
Thank you. Any other person on Zoom? Okay. So I will close the public portion of the hearing and allow the applicant to come back up if you would like. You have an additional 3 minutes.
If you could put the slides back up, please. If you can move forward a few slides. Now keep going. Another one. Another one. And another one. Okay. So I wanted to touch on more of the fire protection. We are meeting all the WUI fire guidelines because this is in a very severe fire hazard zone. We also are addressing the defensible spaces as well as the vegetation and the tree canopies, and then also mitigation of various risks to help prepare for wildfire, just to give it a chance. Next slide, please. As far as the objectives of the Hillside Development Standards and Guidelines, it gives 12 different objectives. And so essentially it ensures high quality projects with durable and fire resistant materials. The architecture is consistent with the site. Ensure projects are designed to fit with and avoid the site constraints, so it utilizes those elements with minimal disturbances. Even with the grading challenges. Minimize potential for geologic failures, fires, and floods from the development. The geotech report does that. Obviously, WUI and the other fire elements, we have addressed that, and drainage, the same element. Maintain natural appearances of the hillsides. Basically, it's not visible. We maintain the same colors and everything. And it's based upon existing development. We try to minimize that level of grading. Protect ridge lines from development. That's not applicable. Next slide, please. And then the next few aren't applicable because it's already developed. Ensure development does not dominate, rather blends and achieve harmony between the natural and built environment, which this does. It utilizes the existing elements. Conserve natural features of the site with topography, natural drainage, vegetation, wildlife habitats, etc. Again, touched on a lot of those. Promote sustainability. Besides Cal Green compliance, it reduces the impact of natural features by utilizing the existing location. The south end provides additional thermal comfort due to the earth, as it is a really good insulator. Dormers bring in natural light, and then future plans for solar energy. So it does take that, and then development overall site plan incorporates the above objectives. So I ask you, look at the context of the site. We realize that grading is the primary concern, and I hope you approve this project so that it addresses the Colanders' needs through their retirement years. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you. So now we will close the hearing and go to council questions, comments about this, and try to move this forward. So any questions, clarifying questions first? So I had a question which is about access. I found the site visit to be very, very helpful. I was able to see that the shed, which isn't part of the project, is essentially part of the existing garage. It's been there for many years. I was able to see the way this would fit into the hillside, and I was able to observe the lack of impact on neighbors and views of this structure with its modest size. And actually, some of the questions that Councilmember Rennie had, I was able to observe firsthand on the site. So my question is, was there a strong attempt to make it possible for the planning commissioners to visit this site?
I didn't realize that there would be difficulty, so I didn't make the right arrangements with the owners for the planning commissioners to go and see it. I didn't realize the gate would be locked, and I only found out that they had the difficulty during the planning commission. So that's why for the town council, I created the map as well as got the time that the homeowners will be available to show it to you.
Good. That was very helpful for me, having visited many hillside development projects and proposals. A lot of things became apparent once I was on the site and was able to see it. Other questions about this? Comments? Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. As I said in some of my comments, I think that, when we're talking about developing in the WUI, my concern is always making the town less safe for the event of a wildfire. I think oftentimes when we add units up in the hillside, we are doing that by putting more homes, more cars up there. To me, this doesn't seem to be doing that, and I found a dissenting comment from Planning Commissioner Steve Raspy to be particularly persuasive for me, which talked about the county acknowledging that the site will be safer than it exists today through these changes. So I'm generally inclined to support the request for appeal or grant the appeal.
Councilmember Rennie.
So I was looking more at the issue with the large cut. The reason we have those rules is we really want developments to fit into the existing hillside versus tear it out and completely build something else. The issue with this one is you're already got something pushed into the hill and had a large cut on it, and so that's why I was trying to understand. Yes, we still have some large cuts, but we've already done large cuts, and how much is it? You're not going to put this house or the garage portion of the house stepped into the hillside because it's already not stepped into the hillside. So I'm more willing to think about an exception to these very large cuts because it's already done and it's really only adding a few hundred square feet of hill removal in the large cut areas. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but this is the way I was thinking through it. Is normally I wouldn't want to give exceptions for such big cuts, but since it's already there and it's really just adding to, again, the reason not to do a cut is so you're following the contours of the hillside, and we can't do that already.
Councilmember Risto?
Thank you. I had similar thoughts to Councilmember Rennie, and I have to say that visiting the site was really important because just reading the report and looking at it, I got such a different picture when I saw that this is not anything extravagant. It's a pretty basic house that's already developed, and the only way to make any changes to the garage or anything else would be to cut into the hillside further. So, you can't move the garage. I think if we were starting from scratch, there would be considerations about cut because somebody could design from the start and step up the hillside or something, but you can't do that with the garage. The location of the garage is already deeply into the hillside on the back and side, and the only way to expand it all is to go a little further there. I think that I can make findings for an exception here for, you know, for the grading, the additional improvements with the firewall, with the sprinklers, with the water tank so that there's a fire hydrant. I think that fire hydrant that would be in front of the property would then serve all three houses that are at that little spur off of Cypress. For me, being able to walk up to the site was really helpful because if I were driving, I would probably not have found it very easily. But because I was walking, I could actually look at that little spur and peer at it. You have to actually get into that section of road before you can see what addresses are served. Better signage is definitely mandated, so that should happen with this project. But I do think it was a huge disadvantage for the Planning Commission not to have been able to get to the site and see it. So I don't think they erred, but I don't think they had enough information to really understand the context. So I'm definitely leaning toward approving this exception.
Councilmember Badami?
I think a little differently. I think that the Planning Commission didn't have enough information that I would rather see it remanded back to the Planning Commission and see if a site visit would make any difference. I'm not convinced that it would. So for me, tonight, I have to look at our Town Code Section 29.20.295 and that certain conditions must exist to grant the appeal. Do I think the Planning Commission erred? No. Do I think that they abused their discretion? No. I also found substantial evidence in the record supporting the Planning Commission decision, and that includes the recommendation of our Community Development Director, Joel Paulson, who I highly respect. So I would not be able to grant the appeal tonight, but I would be amenable to sending it back to the Planning Commission if a site visit would make any difference in their deliberation.
So I'll comment that having spent time at the site and looking at it, site visits are very important, and I believe that the lack of a site visit represents missing information for the Planning Commission. I am very reluctant to overturn a Planning Commission decision, and particularly if it has to be founded on error or abuse. But having spent time there, I think there was an error in the Planning Commission process. I think that the shed is essentially part of the garage and should be incorporated as it is proposed in the design. The cut and fill, while substantial, will not affect hillside views, and I don't believe will affect the stability of the hillside. So you have to ask, you know, why do we have cut and fill requirements? And in this case, I think they're mitigated. I think the home itself is modest, and the larger one-story garage will still not be out of character. So I can find an error in the Planning Commission process, not due to their fault, as they diligently tried to visit the site but were unable to do so. I believe they would have reached a different conclusion if they had done so. We could allow the process to go through, but this is a garage. It's of modest scale. I think that belaboring the process and extending the process would not really be fair for the homeowner. And I think that the project will be an improvement overall. So I would support granting the appeal. But those are my thoughts. So any other comments, or would someone like to make a motion? Councilmember Risto, sorry for the slow response there. It's hard to see your hand on this.
I know. I'm sorry, and I apologize for being remote, but I couldn't help it. First of all, I think, Mayor, you hit all the points quite eloquently, so I'm actually surprised you didn't make the motion, but I will do so for all the reasons you stated. And I do think that for something as basic as a garage, I really don't think it's our job to drag out the process when, you know, many of us have visited the site and we understand the context. So I will move to grant the appeal of the Planning Commission decision denying a request to demolish an existing accessory structure and construct a new accessory structure exceeding 1,000 square feet in gross area and site improvements requiring a grading permit on property zoned HR 2.5 located at 16511 Cypress Way, APN 532-24-004, architecture and site application S-24-045, exempt pursuant to the CEQA section of 15303A, new construction or conversion of small structures.
Councilmember Rennie?
Do we need to add direct staff to create a resolution?
Yes.
So friendly amendment, add that we direct staff to create a resolution?
Yes, please. Thank you.
I'll second.
Can I correct that? Because the direction was to adopt a resolution denying the appeal. Is it going to be?
No, I said granting the appeal.
I didn't hear denying the appeal.
Oh, well, I said granting the appeal.
I think the resolution.
It's the resolution denying, so we need to, the staff needs to create a new resolution.
Granting.
Correct?
Yes, granting.
Granting the appeal.
Yeah.
So not what's in the packet, but directing staff to create a resolution granting the appeal.
Okay, is that clear to staff, the motion and the second? Okay, further discussion? Okay, let's have a roll call, please.
And just for clarification, does there need to be stated findings granting the appeal?
Typically we'll get those off of the record of the meeting, and so we'll watch the video and use that to create the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Are we ready for roll call?
Councilmember Bristow?
Aye.
Councilmember Rennie?
Aye.
Councilmember Badami?
No.
Vice Mayor Moore?
Aye.
Mayor Hudis?
Aye. Okay, thank you for that, and we will now move to the next item, which is item 25. And so this item is the community survey results. And so, Ms. Young, I guess you're going to give us the report.
Yes, the consultant is on. If he'd like to turn on his camera, then he'll show up on the screen.
Great, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I can give a brief introduction. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Holly Young, the analyst in the Town Manager's Office, and item 25 is regarding the results of our 2025 community survey. Tonight, we're asking that you receive the results and provide any comments or directions to staff. We are joined virtually tonight by Derek Harvey from the town survey consultant ETC Institute, who the town also worked with in 2022. and I'll keep my comments brief and turn it over to Derek, who will take us through the 2025 Los Gatos Community Survey findings. Thank you.
And before we turn it over, I just want to recognize that our consultant's coming to us from Kansas, which is 2 hours ahead from now. And he enjoyed the entire length of our meeting.
Thank you for that. As Holly said, I'm Derek Harvey. I'm a project manager at ETC. I've been working with Holly for the last couple months on the survey and putting together the report for you guys. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. I like to include the slide just to give you a little bit more information about ETC Institute. We're one of the nation's leading provider of market research for local governments. Since 2012, we've surveyed over 1,200 communities around the world, and we've done surveys in all 50 states as of this spring. We've been around since 1983. We started as a single person doing consulting work for cities, and now we're up to 50 full-time employees with about 25 to 30 other part-time employees. Next slide, please. For the agenda tonight, we're going to talk about the perceptions and ratings of the town, the major town services, public safety, infrastructure, community investment, and at the end, there will be time for questions. The purpose of the survey was to objectively assess town programs and services. We wanted to gather input from residents to help town leaders set priorities. And we also wanted to identify areas for improvement for the community. The way we did this is we designed a survey very similar to the one in 2022. We administered it by mail, phone, and online. We had follow-ups by text, email, and social media to a random sample of residential addresses. The sample was designed at the results are statistically valid and representative. The way we did that is we took your shape files for the town. We purchased all the residential addresses within the shape file there, and that's what we selected the random sample from. That way, everybody within that city or town shape file had the same % chance of being selected for the survey. Our goal was 400 completed surveys. We did exceed that with 502 completed surveys. That gave us a margin of error of 4.34% at the 95% level of confidence. Next slide, please. When looking at the results at a glance, this is just a what to know slide. 99% of the respondents rated Los Gatos as an excellent or good place to live. 94% rated Los Gatos as an excellent or good place to raise children, and 91% was this number of respondents that were satisfied or very satisfied with the overall quality of life in Los Gatos. The things to know are perceptions and ratings of the city are high. When we go through ETC Institute's California national averages that will show for benchmarking, you'll see that Los Gatos is performing very well and is above the averages in most of the areas assessed. Overall satisfaction with town services is strong. Los Gatos performed well in key areas such as library services, parks and recreation, and police services. But we did design the survey so we could identify opportunities for improvement for Los Gatos. The areas that were identified were flow of traffic on town streets. And that was really the only area, and you'll see that later in this presentation as we go through, but that was an area that kept coming up in different parts of the survey. Next slide, please. For the distribution of responses, this is the town GIS shapefile that we used. As you can see, all the red dots on here are survey completes from the survey. These have been geocoded to the nearest block level, so this is not actually the respondent's house to keep anonymity from that. But while we are collecting surveys, we're monitoring this distribution to make sure that we're hearing from each area of the town. And as you can see, we did a very good job of that with this survey. As you can also see, more areas with more residential areas will have more red dots than areas that do not. Next slide. For the perceptions and ratings, next slide. For the overall ratings of Los Gatos, you can see that Los Gatos received ratings above 50% in all the areas assessed. The two big ones I always look at when I first look at survey results are as a place to live and as a place to raise children. Los Gatos received 99% and as a place to live and as a place to raise children was 94%. Usually when I see those as high numbers, I kind of know which way the rest of their survey results are going to go. People are happy to live in the town. they're happy to raise their children here. We're going to see that come out on the rest of the survey. And then the last two that were as a place to retire and as a place to work were the lowest rated ones, but you still received over 60% in those areas as well. Next slide, please. When we looked at benchmarking, ETC Institute maintains a benchmarking list of the California average and national average from our own survey that we do in the summer. So this is from last summer. I think we're about to put our new one out. But you can see that Los Gatos is still leading the way in all of these areas assessed. Plus 50 points, that's the difference between Los Gatos scores for as a place to live and the national average. And then as you can see, all these other ones are well above the national and California average and that 30 to 90K population average that we also included for you guys. Even the ones that were the lowest rated as a place to retire and as a place to work, which were in the 60s, are still 10 or more points better than those averages. Next slide, please. When we looked at trends, the survey results indicated that Los Gatos has sustained its performance levels since 2022. There's even been some slight increases, nothing that I would say is significant at the moment, but when we start seeing everything maintaining, that's really what we want, especially when the scores are already this high. Next slide. When we looked at perceptions of the community, once again, Los Gatos received ratings above 50% in all the areas assessed. The big ones were quality of life in the town and feelings of safety in the town, both above 90%. The lowest rated one is quality of services provided by the town at 71%, and then the overall value you receive for your town tax dollars and fees at 50%. I wasn't surprised to see those as the lowest ones. Those are probably the two lowest ones on every survey we do for city and towns, and when we show the benchmarking, you'll see that as well. Next slide. And when we see the benchmarking on here, you can see Los Gatos is leading the way in all the areas assessed, even those two at the bottom, which was the quality of services provided by the town and the overall value received for your town tax dollars and fees. Though they were the lowest rated one in Los Gatos, they are still above the averages and the benchmarking we see on here. Next slide. Next topic, as we looked at on the survey, was major town services. More than half of respondents were satisfied in 5 out of the 7 areas we looked at on the survey. Your top areas were library services at 92%, park and rec facilities at 89%, and police services at 81%. The lowest areas were the overall effectiveness of town communication with the public, still receiving about 48% being satisfied, and then the town planning, building, and development services, which was the lowest rated item and had the highest rated dissatisfaction as well. Next slide. When we looked at importance, we asked the residents to pick 2 of the services that were featured on the previous slide, which are the most important for the town to provide. The clear top 2 important were the overall maintenance of town streets, sidewalk, and infrastructure, and the overall quality of town police services. Town planning, building, and development services came in 3rd, but it was quite a bit behind those top 2, with parks and facilities rounding out the top 4. Next slide. When we looked at benchmarking, though, Los Gatos is above the regional and national averages in all the areas assessed. The overall effectiveness of town communication with the public was the only one where that 30 or 99K population average may have got a little close there, but still, when we looked at these items that we were able to benchmark, Los Gatos is still leading the way in almost all these areas. Next slide. When we looked at the trends, town police services saw the biggest gain since 2022, jumping from 74% to 81%. All the other areas remain consistent, though, with those 2022 scores. Next slide. But we did want to develop priorities for the city or for the town with the major town services. The way we did this was we saw it on the survey. We asked the respondent to rank their satisfaction with all of those items that were major town services. And then immediately after that, we wanted them to rank the importance or which one was most important for the town to provide. Using this, we're able to create priorities for the town. For Los Gatos and major town services, there were 2 items that were high priority or very high priority. Town's planning, building, and development services was number 1, and then the overall maintenance of town streets, sidewalks, and infrastructure was number 2. Now, what this rating is trying to do, usually you'll see items that have a high importance rating and low satisfaction come to the top. Residents think it's very important, but they're not satisfied with it at the moment. And that's what you see comes to the top here, especially with the overall maintenance of town streets. It was the number 1 most important. Satisfaction was right in the middle there, but because it was so important, it got brought into the high priority box. Next slide. For public safety, the Los Gatos received ratings above 50% in all the areas of the public safety perceptions we looked at. The top rated areas for professionalism, police officers, the effectiveness of local police protection, and how quickly police respond to emergencies. I do want to point out that the visibility of police personnel in neighborhoods, enforcement of local traffic laws, and the efforts to collaborate with the public to address concerns were the lowest rated ones. But I was not surprised on that. Those are also areas that we see in other communities that they're struggling with and become their lowest rated items in there as well. Next slide. When we looked at benchmarking, the top 3 there, Los Gatos is leading the way in how quickly police respond, the overall police performance in your neighborhood, and the town's overall efforts to prevent crime. And this is really the only area, besides, I think there's one other area that you could see that you guys are on par with the national average here, and that's visibility of police personnel in neighborhoods and the enforcement of local traffic laws. But as I mentioned, those are other areas that other communities are also working on and are also receiving low ratings on as well. And that's why you're right on par with those averages. Next slide. When we looked at trends, the town's overall efforts to prevent crime has seen the biggest increases since 2022. Enforcement of local traffic laws was the only area that saw a notable decrease, and that went from 60% down to 54%. But as you can see, the effectiveness of local police protection went from 74% in 2022 to 83% ratings in 2025. Next slide. And then we also did our priorities for investment ratings with the public safety protection. There were 4 areas that jumped up to high priority. It's the town's overall efforts to prevent crime, visibility of police personnel in neighborhoods, efforts to collaborate with the public to address concerns, and the enforcement of local traffic laws. As you can see, most of those high priority items, the satisfaction was lower on all of those compared to the ones that were medium priority, and the importance was pretty high on all of those. If we looked at the effectiveness of local police protection, though, that was the second most important item, but because satisfaction was already extremely high there, it didn't quite jump up into the high priority one either. Next slide. When we looked at infrastructure, Los Gatos received extremely high ratings in this area. All but one area received ratings above 50%. And from listening to comments from residents earlier in the Senate, flow of traffic on town streets was the only item that received ratings below 50% and even received 52% ratings dissatisfied or very dissatisfied with the flow of traffic on the streets. Next slide. And no surprise when we asked respondents of those items, which one should receive the most emphasis from the town over the next 2 years, the clear top one was the flow of traffic on town streets at 69%. The respondents picking that as one of their top 3 options that they think the town should prioritize. Maintenance of major town streets and overall cleanliness of town streets and other public areas and maintenance of streets in your neighborhood were in the next 3 areas there. Next slide. When we looked at trends, most of these items have remained consistent since 2022. The quality of on-street bicycle infrastructure and flow of traffic on town streets were the only areas that saw notable decreases, both of those dropping about 7% in the ratings. With all your other areas staying consistent, those were areas that I thought were interesting to take a look at, take a deeper dive in, ask some more questions there. Next slide. And when we looked at priorities for investment, there's was no surprise that the flow of traffic on town streets was the #1 item, with condition of sidewalks in town being the only other item that came up in the high priority items. Next slide. Finally, when looking at community investment areas and support for these areas by respondents, the 3 items that received the most support from residents were maintaining streets, sidewalks, and storm sewer systems, improving traffic flow to reduce traffic congestion, and maintaining 911 response times. Once again, this is where we see traffic flow start to pop up again on the survey. Next slide. When we looked at importance, we asked respondents, okay, think about their support levels for that, but which do you think are most important for the town to pursue? And once again, the clear top one was improving traffic flow to reduce traffic congestion, followed by maintaining streets, sidewalks, and storm sewer systems, and then improving disaster preparation. But once again, it was clear that improving traffic flow was a top concern among residents and respondents to the survey. Next slide. When you look at the trends for these areas, most of the items have remained consistent with 2022 scores. Only 3 areas saw notable decreases in support since 2022. That was upgrading walking and hiking trails, improving bicycle access, and investing in more library materials. Next slide. And that's all I have for you guys tonight. I'll take questions now from council or staff.
Councilmember Rennie?
I'm trying to figure out how to ask this as a question, so, and I'll just make it kind of as a statement that you can respond to. So we saw the #1 thing that people want improved is flow of traffic, but the opposite of that, and the thing that often affects that, is our efforts on safety, right? We want to slow a street down. We want to add speed bumps. We want to narrow it. All these things actually make flow worse. And I've, since I've been on council for the last 10 years, we keep adding things that actually makes flow worse in the name of safety. But I don't see any questions in here that really allowed us to understand the trade-off of this. So the question is, am I missing questions that really are about safety and how it would trade off with flow?
I believe we did not ask any questions on the survey that put the two together and asked a trade-off question of, would you prefer flow or traffic safety?
Councilmember Badami?
So to Councilmember Rennie's point, which I agree with, sometimes you do the road diets and you get longer lanes of traffic, and then you get people really upset, and then you get road rage. But anyway, I want to go back to the efforts of making traffic and the streets more safe. Do we have any metrics to prove otherwise? Is there fewer traffic accidents in town because we have slowed things down? I mean, how do we know how to measure that? I don't know if we have an answer for that, but we don't.
Unless one of the department heads want to respond, I don't have a specific answer.
Well, I would just state that I'm all for increasing traffic flow. I'm sorry to say this to some of my council members who really love their bicycle lanes and their bicycles, but it seems like the bicycle improvements rated lower on the residents' concerns, and traffic flow seem to be much higher than bicycle lanes.
So I had an overall comment, and that is that this survey seems to be an effective way of looking at town services and programs, but you know, when you do a community survey, you have to step back and say, is it really addressing the big concerns of the community? And, you know, and I don't know that every council member agrees, but I think that some of the issues that I hear as the top ones are public safety with a focus on wildfire and emergency preparation, as well as our community policing. And so I do hear some response to that in the survey. The second thing is a lot of what we heard tonight and what we've heard continually over the last 3-4 years, and that is dealing with excessive uncontrolled growth and development, and in areas that are not planned. And so, you know, we may be asking how well are we processing the applications, but I really think that that is the root cause of a lot of the issues that we have on traffic, as well as other things. And so I'm not sure that the survey did much to help us understand that. And then the third piece that I hear a lot about is fiscal responsibility and good fiscal management. And again, there's a little bit of that, but I don't see us going to the root of that one in particular. And then I do hear a lot about traffic in this, but it's not linked to other things like some of the road designs or some of the developments that have been approved. I mean, even going back to the North 40 and that decision to approve that and the impact that that's had on. So in order for this to be actionable, I think we have to be able to link it to the big issues that our community feels. And so I'm missing something in that regard. I realize that this is a set of questions that have been taken from other places, and it's useful to compare it to national averages and the like, but I think for us to take action on some of this, we certainly have to deal with the residents' desire for a safe place with housing opportunities that are in places that are appropriate and not allowing uncontrolled growth. So those are some things that I sort of take away from looking at this survey, but then think, okay, there's more that we need to do to really connect with our residents on these big issues. Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. There's so much in here, and I really appreciate that, you know, we have data that we can not only compare to 2022, but we can also compare to other communities of similar size in California. So, you know, I think, you know, all of us on the council, we live in Los Gatos, we love this community. It's validating to me to see that people view this as a great place to raise children, that they have a wonderful view of our town. It doesn't mean that we can't do better, but the ratings just, especially in a place to live and a place to raise children, just blew away, you know, the national average, the California average. When I think about a few things, one that was interesting to me was when it talked about where people got their information. I was so appreciative to hear that it came from local the top three were local publications, the town website, and the town newsletter. And I think that's important because, you know, when you start getting into all the social media channels, it's really hard to help everybody find the information on every little area they like. Somebody wants it on Nextdoor, somebody wants it on Instagram, somebody wants it somewhere else. To the extent that we can continue to pull people to the town website where we've got one place to update things. And what I always tell residents is if there's a problem with the website, let us know so we can make it better. When we're talking about transportation, you know, there were people that commented that they didn't think that the bike lanes were adequate, but then it didn't rate very high as an area to work on. So, you know, there's some disconnect there. I look at who answered this survey. It's not just people that come to council meetings. it's a statistical distribution across our entire community of people that we don't necessarily always hear from on a regular basis. And so to me, that's very helpful to understand where the larger community comes from. Maybe people who don't have the time to come to a council meeting or are not completely engaged, but this is their view. So it gives me a more balanced view of what the community's thinking. When we talk about the transportation issues, I know Councilmember Rennie brought up, sometimes to make roads safer, we decrease flow. Personally, I can only think of one project where that might be the case, and that's near Blossom Hill School. On the other hand, all the other bike and ped improvements we've done have not changed any flow of traffic. They haven't taken away any lanes. And I think we all know that the real issue with traffic flow has to do with the cut-through traffic and school drop-off and pickup. And school traffic is something I think we can continue to wrangle and get our arms around. And in terms of what we can do with regional traffic, that's going to be a lot tougher. But I just think so much of the data here is really helpful. I need to think about it more for other things, but the thing that really stood out, the difference between 2022 and this survey, was the improvement on police. And I know that we had a lack of, we were really lacking with dispatch. We had like a big turnaround that happened. And I think for any department to have the biggest change, I really think that our police chief deserves a lot of kudos. And I think all the other departments ranking as well as they did just shows what a great town we have. I think the part around permits and building, that's just difficult. I think that the building department does a great job. As somebody that's had to pull permits, the online application form is great unless you have any exceptions. And that's a really tough thing to wrangle with. But when you hit against a wall, the staff is really good at hand-holding and walking you through things. So I think a lot of times that's just inherently going to have a higher level of dissatisfaction. So that was my takeaway from this. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're getting all of us deep into the discussion and analysis. I'd like to take public comment for a moment. So I do have one card, Gus Hu. And then if there's anyone else online, this is the time.
Kansas, huh? I just was wondering if you saw what happened here today and if that weighed in on any of your communication today of, like safety. I doing like a yellow brick road, the thing here. So Kansas really stands out. And I was just wondering if you looked at the traffic flow, the patterns, and
So the questions need to be posed.
Oh, sorry.
And then if there's a question for staff or the consultant, it'll come
I was
from
just
the council.
wondering.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, I don't see any other public comment, no one online. Close public comment and go back, Councilmember Rennie and then Vice Mayor.
So sort of thinking towards the next steps, I think what's missing for me is the dimension of cost of investment. And, that really needs to be, I think, something that staff does, clearly. We don't know how much exactly things cost. I would suggest staff look at some of the places that, I don't know how far down the list you want to go, but look at which ones, maybe you want to call it low-hanging fruit, which doesn't take much investment to move the needle on it, and it's something that matters. I think an example of that is fairly high up in the list. It seemed to be people want the sidewalks maintained better, but I know sidewalks cost an awful lot of money, and with the dollars we have, I probably wouldn't move the needle on that. So I would suggest the next step is staff think about which are the ones that where we think we can move the needle without impossible amounts of investment.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. So a few different comments. So first, thanks a ton to staff for doing this. I also found this to be a very helpful exercise. I think it's very important to contextualize all that we do. I think it's easy for us to be, the five of us and the town staff to sort of think in the same ways, and it's good to get a broader perspective. One thing I'll address that I've heard, and then I'll say my takeaways. I think what Councilmember Rennie is getting at is super important. Both of the comments about the sort of fiscal trade-offs, but also the sort of safety versus traffic flow trade-offs. I think an example of where I know our community was absolutely came out in force to demand that the town council do something was on, further down Blossom Hill Road, where we had 2 fatalities in a short period of time. And the people that were here, the dozens of them, again, some of the folks there had family members who died, were asking the town council to invest in bike lanes, invest in sidewalks, make the roads safer. So a takeaway from this, just because people want to improve traffic flow does not mean people don't want sidewalks and bike lanes. I think, if we asked them, would you like us to do it all? They would say yes. But I think what Councilmember Rennie's getting at is that we have limited resources. Real quickly, I had 5 big takeaways. So one was, I think it's super. This is evident to me that we want to preserve the high quality services we currently deliver. Like Councilmember Risto, I found that to be especially the police department. I think the police department, I agree, has just is doing an excellent job. I was super impressed with the library's ratings. 99% is off the charts. I guess it's still on the chart, but very, very high. And parks and works as well. So I found that to be impressive. One thing that I really read between the lines here, and I guess I'm curious for the consultant's take on this, but when you look at the overall ratings, we rank incredibly high as a place to live, and then sort of go down from there as a place to raise children, as a place where I feel welcome, as a place to retire, and a place to work. Retire, I found to be quite interesting that it was so much lower than place to live by, more than 30%. And to me, I think about that as Los Gatos having an affordability and cost of living problem, where everybody wants to live here, but it's very hard to actually do it, and it's especially hard for people as they age to be able to continue to afford to live here. So I think that's something we need to continue to address. Touching on communication, I've been impressed with how the town has improved our communication strategies. I think, I think some of that's represented here, some of that isn't. I think maybe 2 things on that. One is, I think it's one of the most important things I think governments do is communicate with the public and help the residents of Los Gatos understand what it is we're doing here, because, while we had a full council chambers this meeting of maybe, 50 or 60 people, most people in town are not tuned into what we're doing here. And so it's super important for us to proactively communicate. I found, the takeaways on the newsletter and social media to be helpful. I was a little bit surprised that they weren't a little higher. I think we've improved in that space. I think we're continuing to get better and do more there. And I agree with what Councilmember Risto said about pointing people to the website. However, I think we will need to then continually improve the website if we are using that as one point of information. In my newsletter that I send out, I fill it with links, and people always appreciate that. And so I think we don't always have to just link to our own internal resources. I think there's outside agencies, outside information that can be very helpful to point people to. 2 other quick things. In terms of the need to improve traffic flow, I would just say, in my opinion, we can do that through one large expensive project, which is the Highway 17 Corridor Congestion Relief Project. I think I've shared this before in these meetings. I have a family friend who shared old newspaper clippings with me from the 1960s and 1970s Los Gatos Town Council elections, and there were 5 candidates in the 1972 Los Gatos Town Council election. all of whom rated beach traffic as the #1 issue they were trying to address. And so we've been trying to fix this for more than 50 or 60 or 70 years. And so I think it will require a fundamental large project like that project to actually make a difference, not necessarily negotiating with Waze. Finally, I found that our need to continue to invest in disaster preparedness to rise to the top here, and I was glad to see that because of how much we've invested in that space recently. So a lot of thoughts and opinions, but I really appreciate all the work that went into this.
Councilmember Badami.
Thank you, Mayor. So the traffic flow issue did not surprise me at all. I mean, it's not just Highway 17 and the beach traffic. It's just our major artery streets on a daily basis. Kids trying to get to school, commuters, just even trying to go to the grocery store sometimes on Los Gatos Boulevard, no matter what time of day. It's just heavy. There's a lot of work to be done there. But what did surprise me was that only 4% responded below average, that they did not feel welcome here. So an extremely high percentage of people feel welcome here. So I'm trying to understand that disconnect. But again, the traffic issue, totally agree with the results of this study. I think we do a lot to make this town welcoming, and I think we always have been a welcoming town. But somewhere there's just a disconnect to have that type of percentage that I'm reading here in this survey.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Questions? Okay, what happens with this report next, and do we repeat it again in 3 years? What's the plan?
This report was first done in 2022 by the same consultant and substantially the same now in 2025. The intent is to probably do it in another 3 years, but we need to take a look at what we see in the results and have the department heads determine what kind of actions they want to implement internally and present. But there's no further action for the council on this one.
Okay, thank you. If I recall in the 2022 community survey, one of the biggest issues was growth, and there were not very many questions asked about that, about what that meant. So some people interpreted it as, we have all this development, we haven't planned for it, there's more that we can do. Some people interpreted it as, we don't have enough growth. And so I would hope that if we do this again, that we try to get the questions, some of the questions asked, and to drill down a little more on whether the residents are prepared to step up for what's really required in wildfire preparation and emergency preparation, and also drill down on the impacts and ideas of dealing with excessive growth, because I think we now come in to understand that the growth is uncontrolled with the number of builder's remedy applications that we've seen. They're not going into the places that we planned for, which to me is a definition of uncontrolled. We planned adequately to meet the state requirements and to exceed the state requirements, but then 2/3 of our applications are not in those areas that we designated to the state. And so I think there's more that we can do, and I believe that that growth is part of the root cause of the traffic issues and some of the other issues that are at the top of the list. So if we do this again, I would hope that we would try to address that issue in a little bit more depth than we have in this particular survey.
I'd ask the consultant to speak a little bit to this, but my understanding, when you do a survey, there's a limited number of time that you have to effectively get responses. So there's only so many questions you can ask. We have questions that we've asked before, so you want to see the longitudinal impacts of those. And then there's questions that have been asked across multiple cities across the nation that you're able to then benchmark against to see how did you perform. And so all those kind of play into the questions that are asking. In terms of specific topics, my recommendation is the ones that really are specific to us, that you looked at something that's more focused in terms of a survey and not necessarily the community-wide, broad-based survey to try to adjust and then lose out on data that you've been collecting over time. But if a consultant can kind of speak to what other communities do when they have specific issues you want to target and how we can best approach it, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So yes, we want to make sure the surveys are repeating the same questions so we do capture those trends so that if the town does implement new changes, something we can track that over time to see if it is making an impact on the ratings. However, we have other clients that do come up with the same issues that do come up, and they choose to remove a few questions on a survey so they can drill down on some of those issues that they're worried about. This could be asking about specific areas that are causing traffic issues, seeing what they're talking about there. It could have to do with development issues as well. Is it because of permits? Is it because of something other that's going on? So what we really recommend is, we want to keep the survey the same every time we do it, but we also want to make sure that we are drilling down into those questions that need to be answered as well. So we typically say there should be about 4 or 5 questions that we can change out every year or every time we do the survey that really get into those issues.
Great, thank you. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I actually completely agree with what you said, Mayor. Might have different or additional topics that I would want to prioritize, but I do think that overall it would probably be helpful. I don't know if this is a different survey or the same survey in 3 years, but to be a little bit more focused on some of the policy considerations we're thinking about. I would, things for me like affordability, like traffic safety, and sort of drilling down a little bit deeper on some of those particular topics and trying to get at some of the trade-offs, I think would be helpful.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, so Councilmember Aristo, make sure I didn't miss anything there. Okay. Good. So we will now close item 25, and that brings us to the end of our agenda, except for council matters and then town manager. So let's start with council matters. I'll start maybe down this end tonight. Councilmember Badami.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll keep it quick. On June 12th, I participated in a meeting of a citizen wildfire advisory group, and I have nothing more to report.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. So I have a request. So I don't know if you want to finish council matters first. I can cede my time on what I was up to, or I can just say it now.
Matter?
Yeah, it's a council matter request for a future agenda.
Oh, okay. So the way that works is to make a request to the mayor, see if the mayor will agendize it, and then if not, then it can be 2 council members can ask for it. So why don't you go ahead with your request?
Perfect, thank you. So I first want to acknowledge that June is Pride Month, and so I want to express my immense gratitude to the fabulous public speakers who came this night to request that the town of Los Gatos commit ourselves, like 11 out of 15 other cities and towns in Santa Clara County, to do a Pride flag raising. I agree with that wholeheartedly, and so I'd like for the town of Los Gatos to change our policy to allow us to raise a Pride flag annually throughout Pride in June. Last year, I had
So I think the request needs to be fairly concise in terms of what you'd like to see on the agenda.
Sure. I am requesting that town staff return to the town council before the end of the calendar year with options for how best to change Los Gatos' flag policy to allow for the raising of the Pride flag in June 2026.
Okay, thank you. And as mayor, I will accept that as a future agenda item, and I'll work with staff to define the scope of that. So thanks for
Thank
that.
you.
Okay. So do you have other council matters that you'd like to discuss?
Sure, I'll be real brief. Attended the No Kings protest. Saw a ton of Los Gatons there, where there were over 12,000 people in the South Bay and in the San Jose one. I held my last meeting of the Young Leaders Group for this cohort. I'll be recruiting again come August, September. Like several other council members, attended the Cities Association Good Governance event, attended the VTA board meeting where VTA did the final approval of $11 million for the Highway 17 corridor congestion relief project, which is a huge win for Los Gatos. Spoke with 2 different student groups and chaired a meeting of the West Valley Sanitation District, where there are likely to be some major personnel changes coming.
Great. Councilmember Rennie?
Thank you, Mayor. On June 6th, I met with some members of the West Valley Muslim Center to talk about their upcoming CUP renewal. On 6/11, the Silicon Valley Clean Energy Board met. We talked about several things, including an annual customer survey and authorized staff to proceed with an energy financing program that will reduce our costs. On the 12th of June, I filled in at the VTA PAC meeting for Councilmember Risto. We were informed about a plan to have TDM planning resources and best practices available for cities to use. They're just starting that, but they're kind of letting us know that they're going to be doing that. They're looking for best practices and providing kind of a toolkit for cities that want that. Also, the same evening, I attended the Cities Association special summer meeting with a couple other council members.
Thank you. Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. I've been out of town a fair amount of the time, so the only thing I have to report is on the morning of June 10th. On behalf of the town, I attended the Build the Future press conference at the San Jose Grail Family Services Center. The press conference was to celebrate the passage of the child care resolution in 14 of the 15 cities in Santa Clara County, which included Los Gatos. Speakers included Supervisor Susan Ellenberg and Los Altos Council Member Nisa Flagar, and the Executive Director of the Child Care Service. And what was great was the backdrop while we were having the press conference and listening to all these inspiring speakers about all the benefits of affordable child care and what it does for communities, families, businesses. We could hear the tiny strains of pomp and circumstance while the nearby preschool was having their graduation. So it was kind of a great reminder of what it means to have quality childcare and how much it builds up our communities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. On June 10th, I participated with the town manager in the Kids Camp Cameo at New These are aspiring artists who are looking to decorate the footbridge, and got to be interviewed, and then again did that this morning. It was a terrific way to connect with this program at the museum. I met with the operators of the Lockwood and Conata, considering an upcoming application that they have that will be going to the Planning Commission. I met with Mayor Bilal Aftab of Saratoga. We discussed wildfire, and then the next morning I had a meeting of a wildfire advisory group. And then I met with the Los Gatos Thrives Foundation Executive Group, and then participated in the Cities Association meeting. I thought it was very helpful to understand some of the challenges of governance that exist in our area, and how the town manager, mayor, and town manager council relationship works, and some advice and discussion on a number of topics. So it's been very helpful. I participated in a meeting again with the town manager and our town emergency manager on with Los Gatos High School on wildfire evacuation planning and what they're doing and what they're thinking about doing, and was invited back to a meeting that the high school is organizing on improving their evacuation plans. I got to do a ride-along with the police department, and I have to say, it was, even though I had done one before, it was really enlightening. I got to spend a few hours in the dispatch center, and I'm just really blown away by the skills of the folks in that center, their ability to quickly process information and make connections and exercise good judgment. And then I got to do a ride-along with a very experienced police officer and learn about parts of Los Gatos that I didn't know about, and also got to really observe the firsthand the good judgment that our police department exercises in keeping us safe. Then I met with, well, that one I already disclosed, related to development, and then I had another meeting of the community center leadership team meeting with Ryan Rosenberg and with Paul Johnson from the Unified School District, the superintendent. So really interesting discussions there. So that was a busy week. Town manager and then town attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This Thursday, the town administration will be closed for Juneteenth. Obviously, our police services and our emergency operations will be available as necessary. We are also going to be in recess of the councils through the month of July, so the next council meeting that we will have will be August 5th, unless there's an emergency and a meeting hopefully not needed sooner than that. The town is also currently conducting recruitment for the youth commissioners. The deadline to apply is 5 p.m. next Friday. I'm sorry, the last Friday in July 25th. You can visit the town website to see how you can apply for those positions. And then lastly, in California, we now have public safety power shutoff alerts that go out when there are areas of a town or city that will be possibly impacted due to weather-related shutoffs of power. We did receive an alert in our county that's, I can't ascertain exactly how many homes and whether it's going to hit us, but it's on our side of the county. That would occur at the earliest, probably around Thursday in the morning, going through Saturday. These alerts happen all the time and doesn't necessarily mean the power will go out. It just means that we're being notified that something could occur. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you. Town attorney.
Thank you. On May 27th, the town council met in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 to discuss anticipated litigation, and at that meeting authorized staff to begin negotiations of the tolling agreement that was on the consent calendar this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that concludes our meeting tonight. And so this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.